Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. Hope everybody is having a fantastic little day. David, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up?
Just gotta send this link out, man. Gotta send the link out.
Send it out. Yeah, for those asking about the music, I know everybody loves the music. It's called Halal Core. Yeah, that's the music. That's the song. So, David, man, how's it going? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? So, how is everybody else doing? Everybody else, I believe, is doing good. KJ said, "AP, trim the beard, please." No, no, no. Maybe one day, inshallah. I'm trying to keep it as long as trying to make it bigger than Muslims.
Well, if you're gonna be if you're gonna be the new pope,
Exactly.
have a big distinguished beard.
Exactly. Shout out, by the way, I'm wearing a Harmony cap. Harmony Camp, which is Harmony is a YouTube channel that does very, very good content. That is a Christian film channel that does like very, very interesting, good stuff, which I'm subscribed to, and I really love their stuff, and I'm learning a lot from them. So shout out to them. And I haven't been paid to say this, but if I was, I wouldn't even say that I have been paid. Actually, I would say it. But so this is Harmony, but I'm just shouting them out just because I love their stuff and because I'm a member on their channel. So it's pretty based. Good
And
stuff.
because we're all about harmony, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like everyone else is about conflict, we're about harmony.
Exactly. That's exactly what we do. So Harmony is super, super awesome, and I love their stuff. So that's what we do. All right, man. All right. So before you came on here, I actually made a poll in the live chat, which I should probably conclude now for those who have voted. And for those who have not voted in the poll that I had on here, the time for polling is now over. And I asked, should we respond to Lily J or Jay Dyer? And only after I wrote it, I noticed that Lily J and Jay Dyer have the same J in them. So
Prompting me to say that we should invent a character called Lily J. Dyer.
Exactly. That's beautiful. So people voted for Jay Dyer mostly. So I was actually going to do I was wanting to do that as well, because so there are two things that I had in mind responding to. One of them is dumb and the other is a little bit more cool. So this one is the dumb stuff. A video called "Do Not Watch This Unless You Want to Learn the Truth About the Bible" by Lily J. And I started going into it a little bit, and it was incredibly stupid.
I don't believe you. Something from Lily J being incredibly stupid?
It was incredibly stupid.
Guys, if you don't know what you get with Lily J, she's being fed Dawa scripts from like 20 years ago that have already been destroyed. But she's got someone, whoever her handler is or whoever is paying her, they give her Dawa scripts for arguments that were already stupid to begin with and have already been destroyed. But then they're being put out there by a total airhead who doesn't understand anything that she's saying. And anyway, it's but apparently this is what impresses young Dawa fans.
Wait a minute, this is very funny actually. I want to do something very funny. Is this text most likely AI generated? Yes, this text is most likely AI generated or at least algorithmically optimized. Here is why. Structure and tone. It follows a quick clickbait structure with suspense. This video might get me canceled. Keyword optimization. Things like this. Is the Bible really? No hate, no twisting, just facts are classic neutralizers used by AI to make controversial content more palatable. This is funny. Even the description here is AI generated. This is very funny, man.
There we go.
Anyway, enough about Lily J. What we actually want to talk about today is Jay Dyer. And so I had my problems with Jay Dyer, and I had a a back and forth with Jay Dyer. Despite being very friendly to him in the past and respectful to him, he kind of turned a little bit bitter and started attacking me for some interesting, strange reasons. Even as I was publicly praising him, he started attacking me. When I made a correction to something that he said, he actually ended up insulting me and then blocking me. To be fair, before he blocked me, I gave a kind of a sarcastic reaction to what he said, but he likes to dish out, but he apparently can't really take it. Anyway, I don't want to be the old me anymore. Look, I still think that I have a lot of respect for Jay Dyer. And despite the fact that he's not very good in his interactions with others or in his interactions with me, I would say that so I have respect for his knowledge and for who he is, for the fact that he's an apologist who actually is doing, in terms of apologetics, a very good job and all that. I wouldn't go into the direction of him being of him the way he conducts himself when it comes to others or when it comes to those who disagree with him. But I also don't want to really fight with him or with anybody, but especially not with Christians or Orthodox Christians specifically, for that matter. That said, this episode here came up a lot, and people talked about it a lot, and people. Oh, I see that he's actually. What's up, Jay? He's in the chat. Now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, this episode came up a lot, and people asked a lot about. People mentioned it a lot. People sent it to me a lot because they said he mentioned me, but he actually didn't mention me. He just briefly talked about his debate with me without mentioning me by name, and then he mentioned you, David. So
you debated him,
and it's a topic that I'm quite interested in. So yeah, I want to have a look at the things said in this live stream. What did you say? Debated?
I said you debated him.
I didn't really debate him. I only went once in a space to briefly have an exchange with him,
and he was humiliated.
Jay Dyer, what's up, Jay? How you doing? It's kind of weird that you're here after blocking me.
Wait. So keep in mind, like I saw parts of his 2-on-2 debate, him and Sam Shamoon versus Daniel and Ijaz. So I saw parts of that, and we must have seen parts before, but I kind of can't even think of what he sounds like now. So anyway, were you saying he's one of the guys who loves to criticize, but then gets all sensitive when you criticize back? Was that what you were saying?
That would be one of my criticisms of him. Yeah,
that seems to be a characteristic of certain groups. Like it's always been a feature of Islam and Dawah, right? They'll be, oh, your religion is false. Oh, we should fight you. We will exterminate you. You're garbage, you're trash, you're the worst of creatures, we're superior. And the moment you say one word of criticism, will the Islamophobia never end? We're being persecuted. They criticized us. Why can't we have speech laws against criticizing, right? So you have that. But then like just the orthobros.
Hey, don't say orthobros, man.
Oh, why? I didn't say the Orthodox. I said the orthobro, the online orthobros. Can I say that? The online orthobros and the groypers are like that in the sense of they're just like blasting out with like the nastiest, everything's an insult. Everything you hear from them is an insult. As soon as you say one word of criticism against anything they've said, or especially against one of their heroes, like even if you just respond to something they said, they start, oh my goodness, why are you attacking? You're causing division. Oh my goodness, block.
Yeah. So Jay says that he blocked me because I called him schizophrenic. That's not what happened, Jay. I remember exactly what happened. You blocked me after. In fact, what happened was that I left one comment before I left and actually met with my spiritual father to get advice from him. And the last message that I left you is right here, actually. So our exchange went like this. You made a post saying something about Israel. It was set up this way intentionally via the British mandate Ironically, all the British spies who opposed the Rothschild plan said it would be a powder keg, and they were right. I said there was no Rothschild plan. The Rothschilds were mostly opposed or indifferent to Zionism. Only Edmund de Rothschild was a funder. Walter Rothschild was the recipient of the Balfour Declaration, but didn't have much of a role. Zionism was started and led by others. You then said, oops, and posted something. I then, wait, what was that? Oh, yeah. You quote tweeted this and said you haven't read Quigley, who says the opposite, and you literally tell us to send money to Antichrist, which is a huge misrepresentation, man. Please. Every poll had you at 80 to 85% losing your debate. I mean, if it's your polls, it's kind of funny to say that, but I don't really care. And I then responded with, yeah, your side won through magic, Jew blood, and Antichrist. Very intelligent crowd. After this, you blocked me. It was just after this that you blocked me.
Well, AP, you deserved it. How dare you use a phrase like magic Jew blood?
It was literally after this that you blocked me. After that, I think it was quite after that that I actually said that you make schizophrenic points or something like that. After which you blocked me. Let me see. And I don't want to misrepresent the whole thing right now. Of criticized sentiments, words. I'll apologize. AI. La 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 la. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is how it went. I'm pretty sure that I didn't use anything like that before. I wouldn't insult you that way until you insult me. But that's not how it went, bro. Anyway, back to the topic. Jay, if you're still here, oh yeah, you are still here. So, dude, why are you talking about being scared?
What? Is he saying you're scared?
You blocked me, and you gave a very bad reaction to my mild criticism, and basically started crazy posting about me. And
basically.
I then said that I have no interest in debating you anymore, and I stand by that. You can claim as much as you want that I'm running or that I'm scared of you.
Running.
You can think that. It's okay. You can completely think that. I'm completely okay with that. You can think that I'm scared. I personally do not care. I would rather actually have a debate with with a brain dead person like Jake Shields, or a complete scumbag like Myron Gaines, instead of having that debate with you. Because and I'm going to make it clear to you. I think it's going to be very clear what I think when I reject the debate with you, while having debates with those complete scumbags. And I don't think that you're a scumbag. I think that you are highly misled in different ways. But I see no point in debating you, because you gave me a very, very, very bad faith reaction to just me issuing a minor correction to you. You started insulting me and attacking me for some weird reason. You wouldn't accept evidence, and then and so here's the thing. If I now moved forward and had a debate with you about something completely trivial, about whether ISIS was created by Mossad and CIA, which is pretty stupid, I would be having a debate with you that is not important at all, and also doesn't reach many people. I'm just being completely strategic about this. I don't think that having a conversation with Myron Gaines or Jake Shields, for example, contributes in any way at all to society. However, the only reason that I would have debates with them is that I would use their massive numbers, their massive amounts of followers, to then use the space which they have, with which they amplify ridiculous, absolutely horrible nonsense, to then correct them. With you, I don't see any such benefit at all, honestly. So that's why I'm not really interested in having a debate with you on that kind of stuff, unless you want to talk about something different. I don't know.
So you admit that you're running?
Yeah, I am running. In this case, with this live stream here, this is rather supposed to be a reaction to things that you have said here. We can still, I'm serious, Jay, we can still always come together and do a live stream together. In fact, if you want to, I can arrange and we can have a live stream together where I invite you on and we talk to each other on Monday. We can totally do that if you're fine with it, Jay. And David, if you want to join, you can do that. You can join as well. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sure. See, David wants to join too. So, Jay, if you're okay with it, we can totally do a live stream together on Monday, and we can talk. Here, I simply want to go through things that you said on the podcast because it is a topical, a good live stream that I want to, or a video that I want to respond to. If you want to talk, we can do that on Monday. No issues, no problem at all.
But if you
promise
don't
that.
show up, we're going to run around and say you're running.
You're scared.
Because he's scared and he's been humiliated.
You're scared.
That's what we do. We learned it. We learned that from the Orthobros and the Dawa guys.
I'm saying Orthobros. Don't disrespect my people. My Ortho. My Orthobro people.
All these groups are the same, man. The online Orthobros, the Groypers, the Dawa clowns, and the Wingalings.
Powerful.
And the Dawkins drones.
La 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 la. Let's see. Okay. All right. Are we ready to go through this? Let's do it. No, Jay Dyer is not a moron. It's not a Groyper. Jay Dyer is not a Groyper. So anyone who says that he's a Groyper is wrong. Jay Dyer is not a Groyper. He's just Groypers are completely different. And I also wouldn't compare Orthobros to Groypers. Orthobros are not as horrible as Groypers. They can be sometimes, but they're not.
No, and to be clear, they have some different ideas, but the only comparison I mentioned was that, like if you criticize me or my position or something like that, especially if you're like a Muslim, I'm not like, oh no, this Muslim said he made fun of me or something. Like, why? Because I know I blast away at Muhammad like 24/7 and stuff, so I understand. I'm not gonna be all sensitive. There are certain groups that have the idea we get to blast everyone with endless insults and attacks, but the moment anyone responds, we're, oh my goodness, and we're shocked, and then that you act like you're being oppressed and so on. So
okay.
That's an issue.
Actually, before we start, I want to be just like David and go through super chats. Jack Ray, is David Wood late because he's trying to finish watching the latest Mike Winger live stream? David, is that what you were doing?
Ha ha, Jack Ray. Ha 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 ha.
Apparently that's not funny. Sandman, don't you guys know that the Talmud teaches to commit spit genocide on Palestinian Christian 3-year-olds? Yeah,
that's true.
That's exactly what it does. Shake Mike Wingelinge, your boy Avery, girl name haha, what a weak thing, is getting destroyed by other. Avery was live with. I just saw that earlier briefly. I couldn't really pay attention to it, but he was live and he was discussing with Ali Dawa. What happened? Does anybody know? Was it big? Was it good? David, what happened?
We'll check it out. I think God Logic was recording. I think other people may have been live streaming or something like that. But we'll if he posts it by tomorrow, we'll check it out. We'll go through it.
I see.
But he did run into Ali Dawa.
Powerful. Skyscraper philosopher, God Logic just had an interaction with Ali Dawa. Really?
Whoa, wait. God Logic and Ali Dawa?
Dude, what?
Imagine.
Pat's Leatherstrap said, grape pea, not to be mistaken for this enemy, grape pea.
Grapey. That's Ali Dawa.
Holy Joe, I'm shaking my mouth. Are you? Yeah. Andrew Lim. Hey, what is this, man? Why don't you respond to me? I challenge you to a jar opening contest. Yesterday, I actually watched a live stream. I watched Andrew Wilson was on Stephen Crowder's channel talking to this one Christian apologist guy, and I tuned in, and I was a little bit nervous tuning in, but it was actually a very nice conversation, and I really appreciated Andrew Wilson's stances on there, which was kind of surprising to me that I was impressed with the stuff that he said, and I even messaged him and said that it was mostly a good conversation. He thinks that I am now his enemy because you made a video about him, David. It's all your fault.
You see what I mean? Dude, by the way, that's a perfect example, right? You guys disagree with me, so you're serving the Antichrist.
Powerful.
No, you're serving the Antichrist. Oh my goodness, why would they say something like that? It's so mean. And hearing this from a Christian, oh my goodness, it's the end of the world. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Jay, why are we doing this? Back to why are we doing this? Like,
back to
Have
war.
I-
You have
this-
chosen death, AP.
this entire live stream here, speaking about you, have I said anything bad about you? Like, haven't I been as charitable and as nice and respectful as possible? In fact, you know me. We messaged each other. We sent voice chats to each other. You know about me, and you know me in private. Aside from all the from the public stuff. Why are you acting like this? I don't even get it.
There was one criticism. Namely the guys who constantly blast in all directions. The moment you say one word in response, then he proves it. He knows exactly what we're talking about. Fine. You want to utter one word of criticism against me? Then it's war. We're here for war.
That sounds like Alex Jones, man.
I know. Well, he works with him, right? I want war. I told you before that was when I finally got it with Alex Jones, because all I'd ever seen were the compilation clips of him saying like the nuttiest things, and I was always like, why do people follow him? Why would people watch him? And I'd never watched a clip, but I was always wondering. And then one day it was when he was responding to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan was in his podcast, and he said, "Yeah, I think Alex is in a really bad place. If I ran into him, man, I probably just want to give him a hug, man. I wouldn't even want to argue. I just want to give him a hug, right?" And I was thinking, "Oh, that's nice." And I saw Alex Jones's response, and he's like, "You think I want a hug? I'm here for war, and I'm here to destroy you in the name of Jesus." And I was like, anyway, I was watching this epic rant. It was one of the most epic rants I've ever seen. And I was like, "Oh, I get it now. I get it. This is awesome and hilarious."
Powerful. Anyway, Jack Ray, is this going to get messy? I'm just asking questions. Yes, it is. Genius Ridwan says the seal of the prophets.
Yeah.
Not sure what exactly is genius, but
no, yeah. That's a quote from your boy Andrew Wilson. After you said, yeah,
okay, yeah, I remember.
And so AP by acknowledging the right of Israel to exist and defend itself is going to bring about the Antichrist, who's going to start a nuclear war and kill millions of people. Genius, Red Van.
David Wood, is that the Tin Man behind you? And did you make it? Yes, he did.
No, I bought it.
AT Ministries, David Wood, how do you tell the difference between a member of the Dark Triad and one who picks up similar characteristics because it helped in their environment? David, what's your one-word answer?
I mean, you wouldn't be able
That's more than one word.
You wouldn't be able to know through observation. You'd have to take some serious tests about when this stuff came about. So it'd probably have to be like a psychologist who distinguish between them. So guys, the question there is like, if you have an actual psychopath or a narcissist or something who's born that way, versus someone who picked up the characteristics because it was adapted. Like if you join a gang, over time, you might develop the behaviors of a psychopath and be indistinguishable as far as your behaviors are concerned, and so on.
Powerful. The Crusaders didn't go far enough, just saying. Depends on what you mean by crusades, and depends on what you mean by far enough. Depends on what you mean by go. So, yeah. The outlaw, magic Jew blood we all have. Indeed. Hey, what's up? The Gospel Truth. How are you doing? Nice to see you here. Very, very nice to see you here. Do the conversation on a neutral platform like TGT. What is TGT?
The Gospel Truth, weirdos. Literally.
What is TGT? Sounds kind of familiar, but whatever. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we could do that. I don't know.
No, he's already. It's warfare. It's warfare.
We could do warfare on TGT. Whatever.
Do it on a We'll do it on a neutral platform. I'll moderate.
Like TGT, whatever that is.
Yeah, mine.
No, Gospel Truth. I don't know. Maybe that'd be funny. That'd be cool. Sven Ove Johansson said, "Would you please read Matthew 5:44 out online?" Why do you want me to read it? And why do you want me to read it out loud? David, do you want to read it out loud?
No.
Fine. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I hope you're happy now. Let's do that. Let's all do that. All right. Anyway, let's get started here.
I think that the modern
We've got Jay Dyer in the house. Yeah.
so I don't think that the modern nation state of Israel is necessarily identical to what the Old Testament
Is this loud enough?
It's okay.
Okay, good.
theological significance of Israel is. The idea that the secular atheist nation state is the fulfillment of some promise is an evangelical mistake. So I'm sorry, that was a long ass answer to say that's a dumb evangelical mistake.
Before Israel
Well, that's pretty insulting, David.
was founded.
Hey, you know what a dumb orthobro mistake is? Assuming that everyone who thinks Israel has a right to exist and defend itself is defending this version of Zionism, this evangelical dispensationalist.
To be fair, Christian Zionism is a very popular among Protestant Christians.
Yeah, but have you noticed I've never once defended that position? And
Yeah, no,
I've
we
always,
don't do-
and I've said hundreds, if not thousands of times what I actually mean. And every single time I run into an orthobro, they tell me that I hold to a position I've never once held to in my entire life.
Yeah, there was actually a very funny exchange that I want to quickly bring up here. So I made a post the other day in which I said, that was yesterday, I believe, where I said, people hate me for being a Jew, and I'm not even a Jew.
Do you read my response?
No, I'm not a Jew. Ridwan Idemir Bergenstein.
Classic.
Then some douche, first off, this guy said, "You're a useful goyim," and I said, "You're a very smart people." But here, you are worse. You're a Christian Zionist. To which I responded, "I'm in fact not a Christian Zionist." And then people started not getting it. Like, so just another atheist being a Christian. You sure about that? Because you're a Zionist and you also claim to be a Christian. So you're admitting you lied about converting because that's the correct label, if not. So
No.
people have this whole weird thing that if you are a Christian and you also support Israel's right to exist, then that means you're a Christian Zionist. That's not what it is. Christian Zionism is a very
That's a
specific
particular position. That's like saying, oh, you're a Christian and you're a scientist, therefore you're in the cult of Christian Science. No, it's not. That's not saying the same thing. Those are different things.
So Christian Zionism is a very, very different, is a very specific religious position, very specific political position about about Israel and its role and the current Israel and its relation to the biblical Israel. And it is a very popular position among certain Protestant Christians, but I don't have that ideology. Neither does David. So
yeah, and just to be clear, I don't attack the idea of understanding all of this in terms of biblical prophecy and so on. It's not a position I've studied, and therefore I don't talk about it and I don't hold to it. I'm basically a Zionist in the same sense that Sam Harris, the atheist, is now calls himself an unapologetic Zionist. Do Jews need a place where they can actually count on themselves to defend themselves and not count on other people to defend them because other people keep dropping the ball and doing a crap job? Yeah, I think they need. I think given the obsession with annihilating them, it's a good idea for Jews to have a place where they can defend themselves. That's my. In other words, I'm thinking in terms of human rights and preserving people preserving their lives against people who want to exterminate them and so on. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yoshi had said you can't be both. Those saints are to be set apart from this world. Zionism is of this world. Enough said. Now here's the thing.
That is idiotic.
This is a very, very bad, very
extremely bad
way to look at it, because I could just in response to this say, oh, so you also can't be a Christian and a patriot.
Yeah. And to be fair, you also can't be a Christian and give to charity, because in giving to charity, you're giving someone something in this world, and you can't be about this world at all. Yeah. Okay, that's stupid.
This is a ridiculously dumb position.
We're in this world, and we are commanded, as far as it depends on us, to pursue peace with all people, to care about all people, to pray for all people, and so on. Those are command. We're supposed to be concerned about people in this world. Well, guess what? If there's a bunch of people over there and a ton of people want to exterminate them, can't they? Oh, if you don't want them to be exterminated, you're just focusing on this world. That is stupid. Stop saying it.
Very, very, very
Matter of
funny.
fact, it's in his name, Airhead. He might be one of these people who deliberately posts insanely stupid stuff.
Could be. It could very, 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 very be. So I would even say that I'm going toward Orthodox Christianity and the Orthodox Christian understanding of the Bible and of Scripture, of theology in general. So to my position, to my to the religious theological position that I go to, Christian Zionism would not be compatible. So if you're going to say to me that Christian Zionism is not compatible with my religious beliefs, I would agree with you. It is not. And I would say, yeah, in my understanding, from an Orthodox Christian reading of the Bible, I cannot really call myself an Orthodox Christian at this point. I would only start doing that after I'm baptized, and possibly, I don't, yeah, technically yes, then, but even then, I kind of want to be careful with that. But I subscribe to the Orthodox Christian reading of the Bible and to theology, and within that framework, within that view, I would say it would be correct to say that Christian Zionism is considered wrong and not compatible with an Orthodox Christian theology. That said, I'm not a Christian Zionist. So Christian Zionism is completely different from all of this.
Palestine was there, and who?
Jay Dyer, so you aren't Orthodox. Thanks for being... Jay, you know that I'm not even baptized, right? You know this very well, because I actually asked you. I actually got advice from you, Jay, and I actually listened to you. You understand that if I'm not baptized into the church yet, and I'm not technically a part of the church, but I'm on a path of becoming an Orthodox Christian, I'm not really ready to identify as Orthodox Christian, not because I reject orthodoxy, but rather because I don't consider myself technically fully a part of it, and because I don't want to be a representative of it.
Yeah, you're only half. You're half cat, half human. That's why they call him cat human.
So it's very, very funny.
So you're saying you're not even a Christian?
Funny. So you listen to a guy you call schizo, LOL. Yes, indeed, I do. So
Live there.
So it's actually a Christian place.
What is this?
I believe that rabbinic Judaism is against Christianity. Yes, it is a synagogue of Satan in that its philosophy and its theology are essentially collated against Jesus being the Messiah.
Supposedly they found that.
collated.
Maybe he said Kool-Aided.
That's what
Maybe
I
it's
understood
going like
too.
a Jim Jones type thing.
That's what I understood too, but I thought it was a kind of an interesting way to put
The
it.
Messiah, they need 2 red heifers.
I started reading the Bible in the 90s, and I've been hearing it since the 90s.
You see, he only read the Bible in the 90s.
Hey, did you guys hear them? Did you guys hear them bringing up the red heifers thing?
Yeah.
That
I don't want to
interesting?
be too much
Bet-
fooled by the preview here, but rather go on. Oh, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Wait.
Do it. I'm just saying, I've been hearing it since I was a kid. I mean, they want that, yeah.
Muslims and Christians, I think we have more in common than, let's say, Christians with Jews. Maybe
I
I'm wrong.
disagree on that.
See?
Oh, that's good.
See, there was some.
Jay Dyer has gone against the council of such and is no longer orthodox.
See, there are some things we can agree on.
But only because I would have agreed with you 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And then I started debating Muslims and learning Islam.
I kind of don't want to watch the preview also because I don't want to have interference because of the music.
Yeah, they got
Hey,
music in there, man.
Jay, I hope you're aware. I said earlier that I'm very, very happy to invite you on for a live stream to discuss this kind of stuff on Monday. So if you want to, we can totally do that.
Jay,
Nobody's avoiding that.
Jay, right here on AP's channel on Monday, you can have a discussion.
Let's not fight right now in the chat. How about that?
Yeah. So no fighting, but more importantly, no running like a little girl.
Being a religious man?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good. You being a religious man, ain't that like a sin?
Being a religious man?
Yeah. Watching us. Yeah.
Oh, liking you.
Yeah.
Okay.
My family, they didn't want to tell what I did on YouTube. Well, back in those days, I used to curse a lot. So
Yeah, we don't
curse. I don't curse.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean
I
use
cleaned it.
codes?
Unless it's about the Jews.
Sometimes I slip up.
Okay.
I just bleep it. Yeah.
Make an exception. for
But
the
anyway,
Jews.
so me and my brother, we just recently, I would say over the last month, we just started reading the King James version. Yeah. Of the Bible.
Dude, that's the Jewified version of the Bible. You can't read the Jewified version of the Bible. You can't do that. You have to read the un-Jewified version of the Bible. The King James version has been Jewified. Haven't you been told?
I've heard that all the Bibles were Jewified somehow.
It says it right in the name KJV. What do you think the J stands for?
Jews.
And I text you something, Joe. It's a couple images, like ascendants. Would you say that's sacrilegious, or am I saying this all wrong?
Okay,
Israel,
here,
because
here.
that's I don't know if sacrilegious is the word for it. For like a government to name an area that Israel, because that's something God named in the Bible to a family, Jacob's family and his descendants. Would you say that's sacrilegious, or am I saying this all wrong?
So I'm curious what Jay responds to this. Although I briefly listened to it earlier, but the twin here actually got it completely wrong, because the place literally is called Israel, even in the Bible. And the collective of Jewish communities and cities and neighborhoods is also called Israel, even by Jesus himself in the New Testament. So by Jews, it has been traditionally known forever, without exception, without interruption, as Israel, as the land of Israel, Eretz Israel. So when Jews in the early 1900s came together and worked on a project to rebuild a state for Jews, it was very clear that they wanted it to be known as the land of Israel, because that's how they historically knew it and how it's also known in the Bible forever. So there is no disconnection here at all.
But AP, what if someone calls Egypt Egypt? How dare they?
Don't be sacrilegious.
That's what it was called a long time ago too.
For a government to give a land.
So like the modern nation state of Israel,
Right, yeah,
compared to like
Look at Jay's reaction. It almost looks like, what a stupid question.
Land.
So like the modern nation state of Israel,
Right,
compared to like what's going on in the Old Testament and all that.
Yeah,
I think that it's like the modern nation state was set up to be essentially an atheistic, quasi-socialist, almost kind of a New World Order project. It was established under the British Empire and the British Empire's mandate.
Right.
The British Empire was run by the Rothschilds more or less at that time. So this is pretty much a Rothschild.
So here's where the problems start. First off, I really wonder why the term New World Order was brought into this.
I'm wondering why didn't he bring up the Frankists, man? The Frankists, since apparently he learns everything he knows from Candace Owens.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration. But
Jay, don't ever let me know what your weakness is. That's a bad idea. Because then every time you annoy me, I go right to that.
So number one is so Israel was indeed founded as a secular state. Was it founded as an atheist state? Not really. Was it founded as a socialist state? Partially, yes. It was actually many communities were inside established with socialist foundations. The Zionist movement was filled with secularists and socialists who had lots of impact on early Zionism, which is why also the religious Jewish factions and leaders early on were very, very skeptical of Zionism and really didn't like it. It was probably among religious Jews mostly unpopular, the idea of Zionism, of modern Zionism. They later kind of came around to accept it and to run with it, but they also wanted to have a say in it and wanted to and basically say, if we are to accept this, if we are to work together in this, then we can't just establish a completely, fully secular atheist state. It has to have at least some religious aspects and some place for our faith. So they did acknowledge that it is not a fully atheistic state, but rather a Jewish state, which means it is Jewish by religion and also by ethnicity. And it did have from the very beginning, for example, Jewish institutions or religious institutions that are part of the government and still do. So, for example, marriage is still regulated and governed by religious institutions, by religious leaders in Israel. Which is why, for example, there's this criticism that sometimes comes up, which is that in Israel there is no interfaith marriage. This is actually kind of true, because marriage is not regulated by the state. It is only regulated by religious authorities, and the religious authorities that are recognized as those who regulate marriages go by the traditional views of their religions, which do not recognize interfaith marriages, which is why there can be no interfaith marriages done in Israel. So Jewish marriages are overseen by rabbis, Muslim marriages are overseen by imams, Christian marriages are overseen by Christian leaders, and so on. So that's the thing. But the foundational Declaration of Israel even has a reference to God, not explicitly God, but as the Rock of Israel, which is supposed to be a reference to God, which secular people can also work with. But yeah, it was a secular project, though not fully atheistic. There's one issue here, which is Rothschild. So the Rothschilds, they were not running Britain. They were just...
Did you not hear Jay Dyer just say it? How dare you? How dare you?
You've chosen warfare. Warfare.
They were not running Rothschilds. They were not running Britain, and they were also not in charge of the Zionist project. And this is where he wanted to refute me and wanted to post out of context clips, but they were not in charge of the Zionist project at all.
Prove it.
Project.
Hey, hang on. I wanted to say something.
What?
There's another parallel there that you see. I mean, to be fair, anyone can do this, but it just seems like exceptionally common with orthobros, groypers, the keyboard jihadis, and specifically when talking about anything having to do with Israel. But it's a version of what's called the fallacy of composition. That's where you take a part and then define the whole based on something to do with the part. But keep in mind, it's like Candace Owens, right? So Matt Walsh says something about man going to the moon. She's like, come on, man didn't go to the moon. Everyone knows this. Come on, NASA was started by a guy who was in some cult and blah, 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 blah. And what's the reasoning? Since there was a guy in some weird sex cult or something like that who was there beforehand and who was encouraging something to do with that, therefore the whole thing is all part of this cult, and it was all fake, and therefore everything that it says is fake because it's really all just for the cult and stuff, and they're making things up and so on. But I mean, think about that. It's like any group, you can point to someone with some weird idea, and then you just define everything in there, and then you reject everything having to do with it. But you see that over and over again, and it'll go in completely opposite direction. So AP will be told, oh, look at this. This is an atheistic movement, and it's socialist, and they're communists and socialists, and this and that. Look, you see, that's what it is. And then, so keep in mind, they'll say, since you've got some socialists and so on and this sort of thing, and atheists, therefore that's what the thing is. Even though the thing is a collection of a bunch of different groups with a bunch of different perspectives. But then they'll do the same thing in the reverse and go, look, here's a video of these guys spitting on Christians. You see, this is what Jews do because they're hatred. It's like, wait, do you think those guys are atheists? Those guys aren't atheists, right? So now you're taking the religious Jews and you're applying that to the whole. This is what Jews do. But over here, it's atheists. And over there, this is what the religion. And then every step of the way, you'll say, look, here's what some part of this group is doing, therefore the whole. And it's always a fallacy, and yet you just won't stop doing it ever. Interesting.
Powerful.
Oh, matter of fact, since I said others are doing this, it's the same thing with what we were just talking about. Oh, there are Christian Zionists who believe that they're doing this, blah, 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 for this reason. Therefore, if you are a Zionist in the sense that you support Israel's right to exist, you must be doing it for this reason because you are a Christian Zionist and this and that. And it's like, there's no concept of different people in different groups having different ideas and so on. It's if you hold this position or anything else, or if you're a Zionist and there are Zionists who hold this position, therefore that's what all Zionists are. And it's like insanely sloppy and standard, not just for complete dopes, but even for like the smartest people in the group will still do this. Weird.
Yep, that's what they do.
Right. So this is pretty much a Rothschild project, in tandem with the rest of what's called the Atlanticist power bloc, which is just Western civilization basically at that time. So I think they wanted a geostrategic location to be in the Middle East, to be kind of a landing base for the West. And eventually I think what happened is that it became very much a power block of its own. We had a lot of subversion of our government through
Right.
operatives. So, you know, a big part of the Epstein Maxwell stuff was that kind of compromise. So I don't think that the modern nation state of Israel is necessarily identical to what the Old Testament.
There was a little bit of gish galloping there, but the thing is, the thing is that so first off, Zionism has never been a Rothschild project, never has been, and this was one of my main issues where we disagreed.
Want you to think.
Where Jay Dyer actually blocked me. But to be very honest, to be very serious here for a second, there were two Rothschild people in question who had something to do with Zionism. One of them was the guy who was a lord in the UK, and he was part of the Zionist movement because he was a very prestigious person in the UK, in Britain. He was the recipient of a letter from the British government that that the British government now supports the idea of Zionism. The letter was sent to him. He then proudly revealed that it was sent to him, and his only job was actually be the middleman and to deliver it to the Zionist organization. He had little to nothing to do with what the Zionists were actually doing. He just received the letter because he was part of the organization. He was supportive at that point. Then there was another one, Edmund de Rothschild, who was who actually actively worked in fleshing out the Israeli, the Zionist, the Jewish state in the field, and helped build certain things like build streets and all that. But he was also not fundamental at all to the Zionist project. So there are only two people in question here, and these people only jumped in later on. You could actually say that they were kind of I don't know, maybe opportunistic, if you want to call it that, because the Rothschilds were early on skeptical of the Zionist movement, and they didn't jump into it. They only jumped into it later on when they saw that it's actually getting somewhere. So that's their entire role. They were not in charge of this project. They did not design this project. They were not the mastermind behind this project. They were nothing like that at all. The Zionist project from the very beginning. I mean, you can read the paper by Theodor Herzl himself. What Jay describes here, that Israel would be kind of this foot in the Middle East, is actually something that is addressed in the Jewish State, written by Theodor Herzl, where he presents his vision of a Jewish state in the Middle East, where he actually says that that the West would possibly sympathize with this idea because we, and this is a little bit insulting, of course, back then it was completely normal, but he basically says we, as civilized people who have learned in the West, would go there in a barbaric environment and be a forefront of civilization. That's what he was saying. So this is what the modern Zionist movement was also thinking. This wasn't like a subversive genius idea by the West to infiltrate and to build some fortress in the Middle East. It was just part of the Zionist way of thinking. This is what Theodor Herzl himself said. It was a little bit naive, but it worked. Yeah.
Theological significance of Israel is. I think it's the same loose people group. There are still Jews. Like there's some people that think that there's no more Jews in regard to the Old Testament Jews. I do think they're the same people group. When you read the church fathers, they still continue after, rabbinic Judaism comes about in the 4th and 5th century. They still speak of Jews as Jews. But the idea that the secular atheist nation state is the fulfillment of some promise is an evangelical.
This is where I respect Jay Dyer too, because I have heard from lots of idiotic people who say dumb stuff like, oh, the modern Jews have nothing to do with the Jews of the Bible. The modern Jews are completely different people.
They're
nothing
really
to
Polish.
do with they have nothing to do with them. They were satanically created. It's like, that's complete nonsense. So Jay Dyer, unlike these other nut jobs, acknowledges that the Jews that we have in Israel are come from the same Jewish people, and were continuously the same Jewish people of the Old Testament or of Second Temple Judaism. So at least this is a point where I once again respect Jay Dyer's perspective. There are lots of idiots, lots of nut jobs who say complete nonsense about this.
AP, why are you pandering? Why are you pandering to Jay Dyer now? Is he paying you? Is he paying you to say these things about him? How much is he paying you?
I received a message from Jay Dyer saying I will pay you this much money if you say nice things about me during this live stream. So I'm just trying to do that.
Mistake. So I'm sorry, that was a long ass answer to say that's a dumb evangelical mistake. No offense
Well,
to
it makes
evangelicals.
sense.
No offense to evangelicals, but this comes out of dispensationalism and like the
Yeah.
Scofield Study Bible,
Right.
which
Schofield!
Oxford and promoted in America to get people on board with, I believe, the new nation state.
Now, we talked about this very, very much when we were responding to Ian Carroll, but there is no evidence at all that the Scofield Study Bible was funded by Oxford and was put into America in order to change public opinion. It was actually independently funded. The idea came up independently as well. It was publicized or published by the Oxford library, but it wasn't really funded by them. At least he didn't make it all about it was a Rothschild project, which is what Ian Carroll went into. But yeah,
State of Israel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So go ahead and bring that up. So I was reading this in the King James version, and it said, well, I don't want to read all of that. It's towards the bottom of that that's highlighted. It's
there's a lot of uninteresting stuff here, but I made a note about where I want to move forward a little bit here and address something that Jay says. Let's see.
So Jesus is Levitical priesthood. So anything that's Mosaic law is inferior to this higher priesthood, which Hebrews 7 says was about Jesus. So Jesus is the priesthood of Melchizedek. We are an order of priests according to the order of Melchizedek. Psalm 110. That's about the Messiah. And then when the Messiah comes, he's after the order of Melchizedek. So it's a superior and a fulfillment of both the Melchizedekian priesthood and the Levitical priesthood. Does that make sense?
yeah, somewhat, a little bit.
Well, I'm just trying to give you the history to
Right,
to
yeah,
show that like it is the city of Jerusalem. It is that area that eventually they take.
Mhm.
And you'll notice too, if you're reading Joshua, there's that text in Joshua, I forget which chapter it is, but it specifically says that they eventually have taken the land.
Mhm.
So because modern day people in the Likud or Netanyahu's party, they'll try to say that there's still Amalekites around. So they spiritualize and say that anyone that disagrees with Israel is Amalek. But the Amalekites are gone. Like there's no Amalekites today.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So they use that to say we're still fighting this battle. Yeah, exactly. But there's no
So this is a thing where I'm not sure if he's doing.
So they use that to say
I'm not sure if he knows what he's doing, but to my knowledge, from what I remember, Jay Dyer also studied Judaism a little bit, or maybe extensively. I don't know, but this is a misrepresentation. So the Israeli government or the Israeli state or the people in Israel or the Jewish people, they don't have an understanding of Amalek as everyone who disagrees with Jews or everyone who disagrees with Israel being Amalekites. That's not the case at all, and that's also not what happened here. What happened here in this case, where Netanyahu spoke to the people of Israel and said, "Remember what Amalek has done to you," was a very, very specific incident where he's talking about what Hamas and the other terrorists did to the people, to the Jews, on October 7th. So that is what he was talking about when he talked about Amalek. The other issue is that the Amalek reference is not something very strange and not something very, 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 very outrageous at all. It is always part of Jewish tradition throughout the year, but especially I think before Sukkot or something. When was that? I don't entirely remember before Purim or on Purim. I don't know. To reference Bible passages about Amalek, and there is a whole Jewish religious practice to throughout the year remember Amalek and to remember what Amalek has done to you, and to look out for each other and so on. This is not meant to say, oh, there is still the Amalekites are still around and we have to fight them, and those who disagree with us, they're all Amalekites and we have to kill them and all that. That's not what this is about. It's actually very, very different. And in fact, the Orthodox Jewish and especially the Hasidic Jewish or the very religious Jewish perspective on Amalek is actually a very spiritual one. In fact, I read a very nice article about this a while ago, which was on Chabad. So Chabad is one of the primary spiritual, cool aspects of Judaism. Here is an article, for example, written by them. So this is on Chabad.org. Wipe out Amalek today. Question. I like modern interpretations of biblical Judaism. It's funny they say modern interpretations, but it seems that you pick and choose what commandments are still relevant and just ignore the primitive ones. For example, the Torah commands the Israelites to wage an external war against the nation of Amalek and to wipe them out totally. If the word of God is eternal, then why aren't you armed and dangerous, seeking out Amalekites to kill? The answer is, I've got news for you. I do seek out Amalekites. Between you and me, I've even killed a few. You should try it. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds. No one gets hurt and it feels great. But first you have to learn to identify who Amalek really is. Amalek was an ancient Middle Eastern nation. So long story short, it then says, but this doesn't mean that Amalek has disappeared. Amalek is alive and well today, albeit in different form, no longer a foreign nation. Today's Amalek is an internal enemy. We each have an Amalekite lurking within our very self. The inner Amalek is unholy cynicism, and so on. So they very much make this about Amalek, about the bad things in life, or the inner aspect that wants you to, be dumb and evil and reject or neglect the commandments of God and so on. So this is an interpretation of Amalek. Another is that for example, a more mainstream interpretation would be that Amalek just applies to anyone who commits injustices, grave injustices, and bloodshed and all that in the world, especially against the Jews. So it is usually used metaphorically to refer either to bad things, to your own bad side, or to bad people who do bad things to the Jews, which very much goes with the Old Testament narrative of what Amalek is. So this is all that Amalek is about. And this was Netanyahu speaking to fellow Jews about the Amalekites. This is kind of taken wildly out of context.
Hey, we're still fighting this battle. Yeah, exactly. But there's no Amalekites. Amalekites are gone. They're just using these texts to say that we're still fighting the same battle from, Joshua's time.
Yeah, so naming it Israel, that's all a ruse. You think?
He's back on
Yes
that?
and no. So
Okay,
on
go
one
back to that.
level, there are Jewish people that I think are genuinely Jewish people, but the religion is kind of mixed in with rabbinic philosophy, Kabbalism. It's kind of all over the place. And I would say ultimately, and at the end of the day, many Jews just kind of do whatever the rabbi says. And so it's kind of amorphous and subjective, because they don't believe in like going to another rabbi to get a higher opinion. It's just sort of like, if this rabbi right here that I have tells me to do this, then that's what I do. Even if he's wrong, you just do it. So I'm serious.
Really?
They have a position that you don't go to check it and like find out. Like it's relativized.
Right. Oh, really?
It is, yeah. So I would say that's kind of a disqualifier, that it's like identical to the Old Testament Hebrew religion. We believe as Orthodox Christians that the authentic Hebrew religion is Orthodox Christianity. They worship the Trinity in the Old Testament. They're looking forward to the Messiah even in the Old Testament. Jesus says, read John 5-9, when he's debating with the Pharisees, who are the proto-rabbinical rabbinic philosophers, right?
Now, I get a lot of what he says and how it's in line with Orthodox Christianity, and I'm in no position to contest what he's saying here. I just feel like there should be a better way to put this, especially in response to the question that was asked. It's kind of irrelevant to the question. So.
There's a prophecy at the beginning of Luke. It says, "Out of Israel I called my son." Right, in Isaiah 53.
Well, this is actually a good thing that he says. Look here.
Was alive. That was thousands of years ago. And Jesus is saying that, no, I am God. I'm the one that created Abraham. I'm the one that gave Israel this name, right? So Israel is also personified in the person of Christ, right? There's a prophecy at the beginning of Luke. It says, "Out of Israel I called my son," right? In Isaiah 53, 54, those famous suffering servant chapters predicting Jesus, he's called Israel the suffering servant. So Israel, yes, it's the name of, right? It's after Jacob wrestles with the
family,
angel.
right?
But when he says, "I've called you Israel," when he's wrestling with him, Jesus in John 1, at the end of John 1, says that he was the one wrestling with Jacob.
This is actually a very, very nice thing, which is like I'm not trying to evaluate whether this is accurate or not, but with all due respect. This is a field where I respect Jay's knowledge, but which I recently only began to really understand as well, which would be that it's a traditional perspective that Jesus, that the life of Jesus is basically that Jesus goes through the life of Israel in the short life that he has when he is on earth, and that lots of things that happen in his life are parallel to things that happen to Israel as a nation in the Bible. Is this a general perspective of Jesus and his parallel, the parallel to Israel, David? Like, is this a general Christian perspective?
You'll have to ask Jay Dyer on that, since he's the only source of infallible truth on anything. No, Jesus is portrayed as like. Matter of fact, you could even in the Old Testament prophecies, in the prophecies in Isaiah about the Messiah, he is somehow he's called Israel, and so and this carries over into the New Testament, where they start drawing parallels, like, hey, they apply out of Egypt I called my son to Jesus. And it's not, hey, we're twisting the scripture here and twisting these prophecies. It's they're viewing Jesus as like the ultimate fulfillment of these claims and so on. And so it's basically, the idea is, where Israel failed in the covenant, Jesus, the representative of Israel, who is Israel, is going to succeed.
Powerful. So you're saying that Jay is completely right, as usual. Good.
Jay's right on
He's
everything.
the ladder of God. So he's the one that named Jacob Israel. So Jacob becomes a symbol for the whole nation state. But if you fast forward to now, after the coming of the Messiah, Israel isn't a nation state, because in Matthew 21, Jesus gives a parable where he says they were divorced as a collective nation state. So what we have today does involve Jewish people, but it's a nation state created for a socialist geopolitical ideology that was formulated by people like Moses Hess. Have you heard of him?
No.
So he's like he was a forefather of socialism and Marxism, right? He's right around the time of Marx.
Okay.
And he wrote a book about in the 1860s. And he said that we've got Rothschilds on our side, and we're going to create this nation state in Palestine.
Did he say that? I honestly don't know, but that sounds a little bit far-fetched. And did he say that? Is there a source on that, Jay?
The source for Orthobros is always trust me, Orthobro.
Did Moses Hess say that?
No, I have no idea. You should look it up. Look it up. You know how to use this AI stuff.
I mean, he was a communist thinker who was in line with Marx, then broke away and turned after a while toward Jewish nationalism, and he had kind of a little early role in the foundations of modern Zionism, but he wasn't really there to have a huge influence on it later on. But he's considered one of the people who had an early influence on it. But I'm not sure if he actually made any reference to the Rothschilds. I don't. This is completely news to me. I would have to inform myself on that a little bit further.
Oh, you mean the Rothschilds will inform you?
So Palestine did exist.
It did exist, yeah.
So why Republicans don't?
What?
And we're going to create this nation state in Palestine. We're going to call it Israel, right? And
Palestine did exist.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So they're making the same mistake every other idiot makes.
I mean, prior to that, if you go back,
so why Republicans don't believe?
I mean,
listen. So the twins say, so Palestine did exist, and he says yes, it did exist, and they say, so why don't Republicans acknowledge that it did exist? And he acts like, I don't know why, or he's kind of he's about to criticize. Here's the thing: at this point, Jay Dyer should realize and jump in and says, well, they're right. It did not exist as a nation.
In the way people are saying it now, right? In the way that it exists, in the sense that there is a territory that, after the Romans called it Palestine, other people did call it Palestine. Everyone makes the same mistake. Hey, there's a place that some people called Palestine, and that appears as Palestine on the map. Therefore, there was a nation called Palestine, an independent nation called Palestine. No. there was a small little territory of the Ottoman Empire where if you said, what's that area, you could call it Palestine. And Jews would have called themselves Palestinians in that sense.
Yes, precisely. So there is one part where some people, modern Zionists, have an issue with the term Palestine in general. But there is one aspect where you can totally use the word Palestine if you're going to refer to a territory or a place for specific purposes to describe that territory. When you, for example, when you say to establish a Jewish nation in Palestine. This is a phrase that Theodor Herzl himself used, but that doesn't really mean what the modern pro-Palestine people mean when they say Palestine. So this is directly. I want to use my fancy camera here for a second. A fancy schmancy camera here for a second. Let's see if I can get this done. Present fancy schmancy camera, extra camera. Let's see, fancy schmancy. All right, let's have it right here. Is it upside down? I turn it upside down, sideways. The heck?
We're professional. I want everyone to be aware of the fact that all AP does is live streams. And all he's responsible for knowing is how to use the equipment that he uses. And he can't even get that right. So just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
So.
And here's a picture of AP's arm to prove that he's competent.
So let's remove this here from the screen for a second and put this here on the screen. What
look at these effects.
What the hell am I doing, man?
These effects are special.
What the heck? How do I even get this bigger up here? Yeah, look at my beautiful arm. Yeah, anyway, I can't make this work right now. But let's just get rid of this. Let me just read it out loud.
Put the one thing on the screen, man.
Whatever. So here. Oh yeah, that's right. That's an idea. I did that the last time, right?
Yeah.
So here, this is my arm. So here you can see, and I can even use my Jewish pointer for this. See, you see, this is the proof. This is directly.
That's his Rothschild pen.
This is directly from Theodor Herzl's A Jewish State, Proposal of a Modern Solution for the Jewish Question. And you can see here directly that it is that he himself uses the term Palestine here. So he says, shall we choose Palestine or Argentina? We shall take what is given us and what is selected by Jewish public opinion. The society will settle both these points. Argentina is one of the most fertile, blah, 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 blah. So he talks about Argentina. Then he says, Palestine is our ever memorable historic home. The very name of Palestine would attract our people with a force of marvelous potency. Supposing His Majesty the Sultan were to give us Palestine, we could in return pledge ourselves to regulate the whole finances of Turkey. At this point, Palestine was under Ottoman control, of course. It was a territory under Ottoman control. And the funny thing is that the Ottomans didn't even call it Palestine.
Well, and the other interesting thing here is that they're thinking in terms of, hey, can we convince the Sultan to give us this little plot of land?
Yeah, precisely. And look at this. Here's also the thing that I mentioned earlier. So we should there form a portion of the rampart of Europe against Asia, an outpost of civilization as opposed to barbarism. The sanctuaries of Christendom would be safeguarded by assigning to them an extraterritorial status, such as is well known to the law of nations. We should form a guard of honor about these sanctuaries, answering for the fulfillment of this duty with our existence. This guard of honor would be the great symbol of the solution of the Jewish question after 18 centuries of Jewish suffering. So this is directly from Theodor Herzl's pen, written down, where he talks about the land of Palestine, which in this case is simply a territory that is under Ottoman control, but is not a country and not a state and not a nation, which is, however, known as Palestine at that time because the Romans called it Palestine at some point, but which Jews among themselves also know as Eretz Israel, which is the land of Israel, or Eretz Israel, where Theodor Herzl proposes the Jews should just resettle and build a state for themselves. Of course, he thinks that Turkey would totally be fine with it, that the Ottomans would be fine with it. They were fine with it until a certain point. Later on, they weren't fine with it anymore. Let's see. Let's get back to this. All right. Okay. Now that we have done this, let's get rid of this stupid camera. Now we don't have to see my arm anymore.
Well, let's see your little reading thing.
So when we
Much
say
sharper.
Palestine did exist, what we are talking about normally, historically, is there was a territory that was, when the Romans took it, or let's start with long before that. So 3,000 years ago, it was known as the Kingdom of Israel and Judea, or just Kingdom of Israel, or just Land of Israel. Then when the Romans take it over, they take it and call it the province of Judea, or province of Judea. Then later on, after the Jewish revolt in the 2nd century, the Romans make the decision to rename that province, which was until then by the Romans themselves known as province of Judea, into Syria Palestina. And this is only done by the Romans because of the Jewish revolt. As a result of the Bar Kokhba revolt in the 2nd century, the Romans want to suppress any Jewish identity and want to punish the Jews brutally and divorce their connection from the land. So they start calling it Syria Palestina. And from then on, it becomes known that it is part of the Greater Syria territory and is known as Palestina. So when the Eastern Roman Empire takes over, it continues the tradition of simply calling it Palestina, and this is how Palestina enters the Western mindset very much, and the territory is, after the Romans, known continually as Palestina or Palestine. And the Muslims, the Arabs, they take it and call it just based on that, by the way, just because the Romans, just because Western people called it that, just because they called it Palestine, the Arabs initially take it over and call it Palestine, or Jund Palestine, military territory Palestine. And from the Mamluks and the Ottomans forth, they don't even officially call it Palestine anymore. They simply divide it into different territories, and into the territory of Quds, of Al-Quds, which is Jerusalem, and other territories. Only the Western people, when they come and take the land from the Ottomans, refer to it once again as Palestine, and then establish an entity named Palestine only in the 1920s. Until then, and what they establish is the British mandate for Palestine. So it becomes a British entity that temporarily is known as Palestine. And this entity is very much ruled and led by the British and by the Jews. The Arabs have very, very little say in what's actually happening there. And much of what is built in the land after the beginning of the 20th century is done by Jews. Jews build culture there. Jews build cities there. Jews have a football team there. Jews have all kinds of things there. And when you ask people about Palestinians in the West, they usually think of Jews at this point, until 1948, when the Jews established their own independent state and called it Israel. Only in the 1960s does the name Palestine become a mostly Arab thing to strive for Arab identity in the land. Only in the 80s does Palestine or Palestine officially, for the first time ever, become a claimed name for an Arab state in this land. Only in 1988 is the first time ever that an attempt is made to declare an independent state named Palestine by the Arabs. Prior to that, it never, ever existed. It was simply a territory. So this should be clarified here. Anything else, David? In your face.
And prior to that, if you go back to the Middle Ages, it was a Byzantine Christian place.
Right.
So it's actually a Christian place. To this day, the Orthodox Church is the third largest landowner in that nation state of Israel. So you have even...
So he calls it a Christian place, which should be where he should clarify that it's not a country or an entity or anything. It's just a place. This is true. It was mostly Christian after the conversion to Christianity.
Yeah, so guys, get the general timeline in mind. It's Israel or Judea. Romans conquer the place 70 AD, but people are still allowed to, Jews are still allowed there and so on. 2nd century, another revolt. Romans get sick of it, rename it, expel a ton of the Jews and so on. And then it's under Roman control, pagan Roman control. Well, the Roman Empire eventually converts to Christianity. So then it's just under Christian control at that point, because the Roman Empire converts to Christianity. Centuries later, you have Islam. Islam conquers the area. Then it's under Muslim control. Then you have the Crusades. Christians take it back. Then the Muslims take it back. And then it's eventually part of the Ottoman Empire, and it's part of the Ottoman Empire all the way up until World War I, when the Ottoman Empire loses in its war against Western nations, and then that area is under British control after that. Then it's under British control. And then the British have to decide. The British don't want to stay there forever, so they have to decide. It's similar to British being in India and so on, and then deciding and realizing, oh, we got a bunch of Hindus here, we got a bunch of Muslims here. What are we going to do? They have to decide if there's anything they can do before pulling out and so on. And so the conclusion that's eventually reached is, hey, why don't we take a little part of this land and put that under the control of one group, and have another part of the land under the control of others, in order to try to minimize the bloodbath that's going to result, because you had people who were, literally conspiring with Hitler on how to wipe out the Jews in that area. And so, okay, not an ideal solution, but if we divide up the land to make sure that the Jews aren't under the control of the people who want to completely massacre them, maybe we can reduce the violence. What are you listening to?
Right now, I'm not listening to anything. Just this is very funny. What is this?
What is this? What did he say?
Jay Dyer decided to go live on Spaces and said, "Apostate prophet is Muslim. Wouldn't AP can't debate." Well,
What do you mean? Wouldn't AP can't debate?
look, I said he clearly ignored the fact that I said, Jay. I repeatedly said, Jay, we can talk.
Wait.
when we are on Monday.
Didn't you literally invite him to onto your
Yes.
channel on Monday
Yes.
to discuss these
Yes.
things?
Yes, and he ignored it. And now he's going on there and apparently claiming that we are running from him or something like
Yeah.
that.
Everyone, regardless of whose side you're on, AP was very clear. He's totally inviting Jay Dyer to have a discussion.
I was also completely
yeah, so make sure-
respectful and nice. I didn't say anything hostile against him. I have been nice and
Yeah.
good.
And he didn't
kind
have to
from
be.
the
He
very,
could have
very
pointed
beginning.
out how horrible the orthobros are and stuff like that, and how horrible Jay Dyer is in his behavior, and how fragile he is whenever anyone criticizes one word he says, even though he's constantly attacking and insulting and abusing everyone around him. But anyway, so everyone, just regardless of whose side you're on or who you agree with or don't agree with and so on, just let it be known over there that AP was inviting him on the channel. So it's not like he can't debate. It was an open invitation.
He unblocked me. That's kind of funny. I was just blocked until this. He unblocked me. So
And AP is lying. He says that he's blocked, but look, he's not blocked, you see.
This would inevitably bring about the Antichrist. Would you, this is all hypothetical, what Andrew was asking him. And he said, are you even in support of that, with his absolute, adamant stance on defending Israel? And even if, for instance, it resulted in natural, he said, yes, I'm still down for that. I still want that. And this is not me putting words into his mouth. This is what he said.
That's exactly putting words in my mouth. This was a clear lie. Like, I just tuned in for 5 seconds, and there's somebody in his space literally lying about me. I never said that. I never said if it resulted in installing or the coming of the Antichrist, I would still say let's support them. The hypothetical that was given to me is even if 30% of the people support the temple and the possible antichrist or something like that, should we still support him? I say, yeah. That's exactly what that was about. Which, as I said,
it's all a complete counterfactual.
Which, as I said, was a stupid hypothetical that is unrealistic to begin with. But if you're going to ask it that way, sure, why not? Yes, I said. So I never even accepted the hypothetical to begin with. I simply gave a short yes response, but I never even gave the response that even if it results in the Antichrist, we should still support them. Never happened. Now, you have a guy in his spaces lying about me, and I wonder if he corrects him.
With a fair debate with you, because I feel like the substance of what they're talking about is not necessarily what they truly care for. I think a lot of it just comes down to conflicts of interest at the end of the day.
And in his case, you think what exactly is the conflict? You said not feds, but just conflict of interest. So you said.
Yeah, so he was speaking about, I think Andrew brought up the fact that David Wolf has been somehow involved in this sort of organization. Charlie Kirk and AP's good friends of them.
They say David Wolf,
and they've turned that sort of anti-Muslim sort of clip farming thing into a business now. Right.
So the funny thing is that I have no connections whatsoever to Turning Point USA or to Charlie Kirk or any of these people. I've never even. Charlie Kirk probably doesn't even know about me. I have no connection to any of these people at all. This is just
apart from me seeing some clip of him where he was sitting down at a school and having people talk or something, ask him questions or something. I have no clue who this guy even is.
This is ridiculous because this is the kind of stuff that happens when people start attacking random stuff online.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is just talking random nonsense that is completely unreal, that has no connection to reality at all. I don't have any connections to Charlie Kirk. I have never interacted with Charlie Kirk. David has never interacted with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk probably doesn't even know that I exist. So we don't have any of these things. And I never said what that guy just pretended I said. So. But now you have stuff like this said on a space created by Jay Dyer, where you can now see people spreading lies about me.
People are hearing it. People are hearing it and believing it.
What will happen now is, over the next few weeks, I will have several people come at me in comments and here and there and say, "Oh, but didn't you say that we should support the Antichrist? Didn't you? Why are you together with Charlie Kirk?
Charlie Kirk is part of an organization that's meant to bring about the Antichrist."
This is the irresponsible nonsense that is sometimes worse than just lying. You know,
it is. And by the way, that's all connected to what I was saying earlier. Matt, I literally just pointed this out, that they have this tendency to say, "Oh, look, here's someone who has this," but therefore the entire group, right? They're literally doing it. Any connection. Oh, Charlie Kirk said something pro-Israel. AP said something. You see, they're part of this organization, this blah, blah, blah. It's like this insanely sloppy thinking that I normally associate with Candace Owens. She's the one who does that, right? You can have some giant group. She'll go through everyone in the group, find the person who has some weird view and say, therefore, you see, this is what they're all about. And by the way, guys, let me put it this way.
Urinating upon one another. That's what they do.
Those of you who have zero problem with the massive, I would say insane claim that 30% of the population is trying to name an antichrist. And that's made up. That's made up. You did have a poll from years ago saying that 30% of people want the third temple to be built and so on. That's completely different. That is completely different from wanting to name a Messiah. There you're saying, hey, we want a temple so we can worship. That's distinct from the claim, and we want to name a Messiah who's going to conquer everyone. Totally different things. Why? Because you have all kinds of different people in the group that want the third temple. You have atheists who want the third temple just because they don't think it's right that Jews don't have that spot for worship. Like, why do Muslims have control of that? You have completely atheistic people. You have Christians who would love to see this. You have all kinds of people who aren't trying to name any sort of Messiah or anything else. So when Andrew Wilson says, okay, 30% of people support the construction of the third temple, so this is 30% of people who support naming a Messiah who's going to be the Antichrist, and we point out, where are you getting that from? It's made up, and it doesn't seem to bother even one of their fans that you can literally just make things up about what's going on, like extremely sloppy reasoning, that kind of tells me that it's more about just having a problem with Jews and not liking Jews than it is about actually giving good arguments. So long story short, everyone, if you were to ask the people of Israel, how many people in Israel support Israel's right to exist and defend itself? So that idea of Zionism, you'd get overwhelming, massive majority of the population, right? If you then ask, okay, how many people think Jews should have the right to pray on the Temple Mount? That's not controlling anything. It's just, hey, we should be allowed to pray there, just like Muslims have a right to pray there, and so on. There you get about 50%. About 50% of the population says Jews should have the right to pray there, just like Muslims. It's a huge place. The Temple Mount is a huge place, like 20-some football fields of space up there. So you got around 50% of people of Israel say Jews should have a right to pray there. Then you say, what about building the actual third temple? There it's about 30%. What about naming the Messiah? I've never seen any statistic on there, but I would guess it's going to be significantly lower than 30%, given the number of different groups there you have. So why does everyone just let this slide? And if it's pointed out, hey, you're just making things up, because keep in mind, if you say build the third temple, what's that going to do? That's not going to be nuclear war.
Let me point out one statistic here, which is that according to statistics, half of the people of Israel don't even believe in the coming of a Messiah. And then you think that 30% are going to support bringing about the Messiah. That makes no sense.
It makes zero sense. And here's the thing. Guess what? That was crucial. That was critical for Andrew's main argument, right? You had this huge number of people who are trying to name the Messiah, but that Messiah is going to be the Antichrist and he's going to have nuclear weapons. He said this was his main argument. Okay, his main argument is based on a made up statistic. It's made up. If it's not made up, any people search the internet, find me 30% of the population of Israel support the naming of an Antichrist, like Andrew Wilson said. And here's the thing. Why are you pretending that this is just, this is straightforward logic. This is just logic. This is obvious. This is clear. I don't even know what to do. If your group thinks it's perfectly acceptable to make things up, and that only evil people would challenge you and correct you, and so I don't even know what to do at that point. I can't take you seriously.
Yeah. I want to say one thing, which is that, so before getting back to the topic, just very quickly, I was going to do this live stream on Thursday, and I didn't do it because I am in no fighting mood. I don't want to fight with anybody. I don't want to fight with other Christians. I don't want to fight with Andrew Wilson. I don't want to fight with Jay Dyer, despite the fact that they want to fight with me to no end. I thought to myself, right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the mood, and if I go live, I don't want this to turn somehow into a fight, and I want to just make this as respectful and reasonable as possible.
Too late. You chose one.
Today I decided, and I thought to myself, okay, I will pray about this, and I will try to make it as reasonable as possible to go on and to talk about this, to review this kind of stuff, and to make sure that I don't fight, that I don't attack anyone, that I don't insult anybody, that I don't attack them back, even if they come at me, and so on. I thought it will be good. It will be reasonable. It will be okay. But the only thing I had to do was just to talk about it, and they started coming at me and attacking me. And
the Orthodox can't take it, man.
You're running. You're working for the Jews. Like, dude, at what point do you guys realize that you are the problem?
Yeah.
At what point do you guys realize that you are the ones causing all the trouble? At what point do you guys realize that you are the ones who are instigators, who are subversives, who are
sniveling crybabies,
who are simply hostile to anyone and everyone who has an opinion? At what point do you guys realize that you are not the people who can have reasonable conversations like adults? Like, now I have people saying, "Oh, why don't you go and join Jay Spaces?" You mean after I started a live stream? And after he then, in response to this live stream, started a Spaces, which I then am supposed to go to debate him.
Yeah, and
I literally said,
do that after you told him he could come on your channel. Matter of fact,
I literally said, "I want to have a conversation with you. Join us on Monday, and we can have a conversation about this. Right now, I just want to review things said. Do you not want me to fact check things that are publicly said?"
Yeah, apparently it's unacceptable to do things like that. If he says a bunch of things that are complete nonsense, or if Andrew Wilson makes up something and so on, it's how dare you? How dare you correct any of these things? Come on, you got to hate Jews no matter what.
Anyway.
Hey Jay, go ahead and bring Andrew on with you, and maybe he can clear things up for us, because that would be along the lines of, okay, yeah. I did make that leap from 30% of people supporting the Third Temple to 30% of people wanting to name a Messiah and so on. So yeah, but it's still a concern because of this and that. Or he can actually shock me and be like, oh yeah, and here's the source. And I would be shocked if he actually had a source beyond trust me, Orthobro.
Powerful. You two heard Tate brothers got charged and arrested. Arrested? I know that they got charged in the UK. They now have multiple charges going against them, including rape, assault, corruption, human trafficking, and so on. Many charges going against them. They were already expected to be extradited from Romania after their process in Romania is done to the UK. Now they have added on top of that really serious charges against them, deservedly so. I think the Tates should have no place in the world that is safe for them to go for what they have done so far. Very happy to hear that. Skyscraper Philosopher Cleave to Antiquities in the chat recommends his channel for his excellent content on Protestantism versus Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. I can't recommend anyone's content without knowing exactly what they do and what they say. So welcome.
If he's humiliating the Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, then we will support him.
Welcome being in the chat. Just so everyone knows, I am a catechumen in the Orthodox Church, and very fond of Orthodox Christianity personally, and very convinced by it as well, and am aiming to become an Orthodox Christian and get baptized as well, which is in fact going to happen soon. So just so everyone knows that. The fact that I have disagreements with certain people and they fight with me, despite the fact that I'm not trying to fight with them at all, doesn't mean that this is me against orthodoxy. I would like to be Orthodox myself.
Hey, no, didn't Jay say you're a Muslim? Anyway, I looked at the most recent super chat, and it's saying Jay thinks we never went to the moon. Is that true? Does he share that with Candace Owens? Because
I don't know.
That would be interesting. Jay, why you just mindlessly going along with everything Candace Owens says? Are you part of this group? Are you part of this weird cult that Candace Owens is in? You guys all
Michael Fitt said, AP, are you proud of your humility? Yes, I am. I am absolutely proud. I even give myself the name the most humble, so it should be clear. Tat M. Jay Dyer, Sam Shimon started attacking me out of the blue, then blocked me. He has problems. Also, Jay Dyer attacks AP out of the blue and then blocks him. Yeah, it was kind of weird. He also says that he blocked me after I insulted him. He literally insulted me because I corrected him on something, which is very weird.
Hey, by the way, that's always my position. If people want to blast other people, but they don't have a problem getting blasted in return, and so on, that's fine with me. It's always this double standard. Like, I get to say whatever I want, and you have to shut up. Don't like it.
He's lying about you guys. Well, he can do that. It's okay.
Orthodox.
That's why they call him gay liar.
Rabbinic Jews today who take their text seriously, they think Zionism is wrong. Then that they're not supposed to be in the land until their Messiah comes. So even
this is so uncharitable. It's like saying, well, there are some Christians actually who take their text seriously who support Israel, or some Christians who actually take their text seriously who disagree with Zionism, or some Christians who actually take their text seriously who say that that there is only a select few of people who are meant to be the saints in the latter days. What he's talking about, a very specific group of ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel and around the world who are explicitly opposed to Zionism, and they are a minority, and they just have an interpretation where they think that Zionism is incompatible with Judaism. That doesn't mean that they are the ones who take it seriously. There are religious Zionists who take their text very seriously.
You have Jews who take their text very seriously on different sides of this issue. So I've run into that. I've run into those guys in New York a bunch of times. Whenever there's anything like an Israel Day parade or something like that, there's this other group there that's they're protesting and so on. And it's basically, hey, we broke our covenant and we've been scattered, and that's that's how things are going to be until the Messiah comes back and fixes things. And so we sit back and we wait for the Messiah to come back and do these things. Until then, and when the Messiah comes, it's going to be that's going to be known to everyone. It's going to be known and obvious to everyone. It's not yet, and therefore we have no business over there taking the land or having a nation of Israel. You have that perspective. Guess what? Even within Israel, you have a similar view, but it's about the Temple Mount. It's, we can be here as a people and so on, but there is no rebuilding of any temple until the Messiah comes and does it. And therefore and that's going to be obvious to everyone. It's going to be obvious and indisputable to everyone. Therefore, we're not doing that. And then you have other people who are like, no, let's go build the temple so we can worship there until the Messiah comes in. So you have all kinds of different views, and it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of lumping everyone together in a lot of these things.
There's a very funny thing that Dr. Annette Wolf, whom I respect a lot, she said that it's always funny that when she gives a presentation and talks about how anti-Zionist Jews also want Zionism just in the future, people start getting a little bit surprised, but that's basically what it is. So those anti-Zionist Jews also want Zionism, but just in the future when God brings it about, So
hey, AP,
what?
You can download a Spaces thing, right?
What do you mean download Spaces thing?
No, I mean, like if there's a online discussion with
yeah.
Jay Dyer, you can download that, right?
If it's saved, you can download that, I think.
Okay, so you can say this. You could say Monday, if Jay Dyer wants to join us live. I can't even imagine if he's this sensitive to criticism and this fragile and this much of a tulip. Then I don't know how he'd even sit here for a discussion like this. Even though to be fair, on lots of issues, Jay Dyer would run circles around me in knowledge and so on. But he kind of let the cat out of the bag on how to crush him just by showing how fragile he is. But anyway, what you could say, AP, is if Jay Dyer wants to join us live on Monday, he can. And if he wants to bring Andrew Wilson with him to provide a source on that 30% and so on, he's welcome to do that. And if not, then we'll go live anyway and go through the spaces and expose the lies.
That's a good idea.
Which are apparently every single second of the entire.
That's a good idea. We can do that.
Some position on this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that whole Israel thing, they have a hidden agenda, ulterior motives. A lot of people think
when they named it Israel.
Yeah, a lot of people think
exactly.
it's for religious reasons, but it's not.
It was a secular, atheistic. I mean, some of the early people involved in Zionism had some belief in God, but not anything to do with the way that the Old Testament describes Hebrew religion. And when you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th centuries of the history of the church, that's when you really get this split between Judaism at that time.
So this is funny because the twins they keep trying to make it about how calling the state Israel is deceptive and bad and all that. And I guess after trying to explain it differently, eventually Jay kind of agrees with them, but it's kind of disingenuous because, as said, it was always historically known to Jews as the land of Israel. Even Jesus himself calls it Israel. So calling it Israel doesn't have to be anything about.
Yeah, it's got to be some sinister plot, right? Hey, Pete, take your most recent super chat.
Most recent super chat. Let's see. Jay has open spaces multiple days a week. AP knows. AP is the one that ran from their planned debate.
Man, after he cried like a baby and blocked you, you said, I'm not interested in dealing with this. You see?
Yeah, I'm not even. So, okay, I'll give to this one final response, and then I really want to move on with the video, okay? So, Contemporary Compendium says Jay has open spaces multiple days a week. Well, he also blocked me and just unblocked me just now when I started with this live stream. AP knows this. AP is the one that ran from their planned debate. So, here is the thing. I also said this at the very beginning. I went to have an exchange with Jay Dyer before he blocked me, like a month ago or so, or more, where I simply, he made a false claim, and I simply went and corrected that false claim. After I corrected that false claim, what he did was to immediately insult me in a completely unnecessary way, upon which I responded sarcastically with also an insult, and then he blocked me. When he blocked me and then also further made posts about me and started sending people after me and posting ridiculously and insanely about me, I said, honestly, I don't really want to do a debate. I don't care about the debate. And I knew from that point that people are going to say, "Oh, he's running from the debate." Say it however you want. I honestly do not care. I honestly do not give a single fig. I don't care at all if you consider this running, because I don't think that there is any benefit to having a debate with Jay Dyer if he acts like this, because he's not charitable, he's not good faith, it's not useful at all, it's not an interesting topic to debate, and honestly, in all honesty, he doesn't really have a huge audience that is going to be impacted by this. It's just a bunch of people who will say, "Oh yeah, Jay Dyer destroyed Jay Dyer destroyed him." I have no interest in it. I would rather go have a debate with an idiot like Myron Gaines or a brain dead person like not Jay Dyer, like Jake Shields, to make use of their audiences and to correct them in front of lots of people. With Jay Dyer, I don't see any single benefit in having such a debate. You can say as much as you want that I'm running. Guess what? I honestly do not care a single bit. It's not an ego issue to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Hey, AP. It's funny here. These guys use the same tactics as the Dawa guys in the keyboard jihadis that we've been interacting with for years. It's all the same thing. It's all like,
oh, you don't want to interact with us because we act like crybabies and cowards. Oh, you see, you're running from us.
Yeah, we've only heard this 50 trillion times by the group that used the exact same little trick before you guys.
Look at my name. Look at my tag name. It's literally says the most humble. You think I'm gonna care about you attacking my ego and saying you're running? I am humble, man. I don't care about that. I'm the most humble person in the world. Idiot.
Second Temple Judaism from the days of Christ up into the 2nd, 3rd century, in the formulation of what's called rabbinic or Talmudic Judaism. Christ.
Okay, wait. I want to.
Yeah, take that comment.
At that time, Second Temple Judaism from the days
of
Christ.
Take that recent super chat, man. It's from the
I don't want to, man. I want to focus on the freaking thing here.
It's from Cleave to Antiquity, man. Cleave to Antiquity. There you go.
Cleave to Antiquity. To be frank, Jay ran from a formal debate offer with me at Bless God 2 when he was on Ruslan. He can't talk about running. Powerful. Interesting. Thank you for that knowledge. Thank you for that.
Lots of running from the Ortho Bros.
Anyway, let's listen to what he says.
In the formulation of that time, that's when you really get this split between the history of the church.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you really get this split between Judaism at that time, Second Temple Judaism from the days of Christ up into the 2nd, 3rd century, and the formulation of what's called rabbinic or Talmudic Judaism. So that's when it really crystallizes.
Mm-hmm.
They collate in the 4th and 5th century the rabbinic traditions, and they say this is now what Judaism is, because they had to figure out a way to have the religion without the temple, because the temple was destroyed in 70.
Collated in the 4th and 5th centuries. That's a little bit misleading there. What?
Oh no, I don't know exactly about the timing, but he is correct in that. So in the first century, you actually had a bunch of different views and so on, and there were views that were later deemed heretical in rabbinic Judaism and so on. But that happens later, and yes, it's kind of all the result of losing the temple, then being expelled from the land, and okay, now what do we do as Jews? And that's when you start getting rabbinic Judaism. And so on. So then it became a matter of orthodoxy and declaring views heretical and so on.
Yeah. But I'm going to listen to this further, but I want to talk about that a little bit.
70 AD. Okay. A way to have the religion without the temple, because the temple's destroyed in 70 AD. Okay. I believe Jesus is predicting that in Luke 21 and Matthew 24. So the temple's gone. Jews are in the diaspora again. And so they come up with a philosophy and ideology that allows them to kind of make up for not having the temple. So, well, you go to your synagogue, right? How do you do good works and sacrifice? Well, you give money, right? So it's like you make up for not having a temple and all that with this new rabbinic Judaism. And that's where we are today, that rabbinic Judaism.
Yeah, so I would say that it's pretty much an mostly accurate description, I would say, of what happened. I just have a problem with one of the implications that he made there, which is that it's collated in the 4th and 5th centuries. It kind of, not sure if he meant to say that, but it kind of alludes to a certain wrong idea that some people have, some anti-Jewish people have, where they say that rabbinic Judaism basically just came into being in the 4th and 5th centuries, or 5th and 6th centuries, or something like that. So it starts directly at the fall of the Second Temple. So around that time, you have Christianity or Christians as a very large, massive movement actually emerging, and at the same time, you have Judaism as different sects existing. And the most popular sect among the common people, the Pharisaic sect, continues after the destruction of the temple and establishes the rabbinic tradition. So it is generally considered that rabbinic Judaism directly starts at the fall of the Second Temple. So the starting point is right there. When you look at the Talmud and the writings, you see that the references therein are directly to quotes and things that were written and said in the first and second centuries. Or even before that. So the tradition of rabbis delivering the oral Torah and telling people what needs to be done and what should and should not be done is already around before the destruction of the temple. But then after the destruction of the temple, this becomes the established tradition. Much later, centuries later, the Talmud is actually codified and turned into one collection of many books, but it is long before that it is collected as the Jewish tradition and the Jewish movement. So that happened very, very early on, when the divide between Christianity and Judaism kind of was emerging. At that point, they weren't even really divided. For the first and second centuries or so, Christians were considered heretical Jews. It was only much later that they were considered completely separate from Jews and considered their own religion and stuff. And yes, Jews did expel Christians from their synagogues at some point, which was considered an injustice, and which was received in very, very bad ways by the early Christians. So you could say that there was actually one time where they had the upper hand and kicked out the Christians, which caused a lot of hostilities among each other.
This is what the Jews do.
But the thing is, there is a lot more to this, such as that the Jews, for the longest time, allowed the Christians to be in the synagogues with them, but it repeatedly caused problems to both sides because the Roman authorities saw both of these groups as stupid, pathetic troublemakers who should be kept in line. So they continually used these two against each other, to infiltrate the other, to punish Jews who associate with Christians, and to punish Christians who associate with Jews. So the Jews eventually said, okay, we have to separate completely. Get out, don't come into our synagogues anymore. So, and then they started to establish their own church traditions early on, and so on. So, but yeah, there never was a point where Jews ceased existing, and then different Jews who are the Jews of today came into existence. They were always the same Jews from the times of the Bible until now, and even Jay agrees with that. So that's good.
Is not identical to Old Testament Judaism, even in the days of Jeremiah. If you read the prophet Jeremiah, you're going to notice that he talks about the lying pen of the scribe. And Jesus mirrors that when he preaches against the Pharisees in Matthew 22, 23, 24. And he talks about the scribes and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses, they're hypocrites. All of the, prophecies of the prophets will come upon this generation in vengeance. He says the vengeance of the prophets is coming upon this generation because they crucified the Messiah.
Am I getting this wrong? What he just mentioned there, what Jesus said about the Pharisees and scribes sitting in the seat of Moses, did he just kind of imply that that it was part of the criticism? Because it was not.
The scribe. And Jesus mirrors that when he preaches against the Pharisees in Matthew 22, 23, 24. And he talks about the scribes and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses, they're hypocrites. All of the, prophecies of the prophets will come upon this generation in vengeance. He says the vengeance of the prophets is coming upon this generation because they crucified the Messiah. So you get the divorce.
This is actually a very, very, very interesting section, a very interesting collection of passages in the New Testament, which I find very, very worth looking at. Matthew 23. Let's see. David, what do you think about this? It sounds to me like he's depicting this as criticism or something like that. So here's what he means. Matthew 23. Then Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. This is not a negative thing at all. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do. Do you see that? This is actually a very, very interesting thing here in the New Testament to me personally. So Jesus is saying directly that the scribes and the Pharisees are actually legitimate authorities, and he actually tells people to listen to what they preach. So listen to what they say, but don't do what they do. This is what he says. And here, that's the hypocrisy that's taking place here. So the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do. So he recognizes them as actual legitimate authority who teach the law that was given to Moses, who are truly telling people that the real teachings that need to be followed. It then, however, continues. Here is where the criticism arises. But do not do according to their works, for they say and do not do. For they bind heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on men's shoulders. But they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do to be seen by men. They make their phylacteries, which are the tefillin, broad and enlarge the borders of their garments. They love the best places at feasts. The best seats in the synagogues, greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called by men Rabbi, Rabbi. So what he's doing here, Jesus, is he's while affirming that the Pharisees and the scribes are actually legitimate authorities that you should listen to, they say that he says that they are also hypocrites in their behaviors, and that they are a bunch of people who engage in vanities and all that. So this very much mirrors a language that is used in the Bible throughout when prophets speak against the authorities or speak against those in charge of the temple, where they tell people to uphold the law while brutally criticizing and insulting the religious authorities for being a bunch of hypocrites and all that. So this is basically what Jesus does here as well. So yeah, what do you think, David? Anything we want to say?
I have two sort of competing different interpretations. One is he's like kind of being sarcastic here because he's setting up what hypocrites they are. And he's basically saying, hey guys, these are the religious leaders, so make sure you obey what they say, just not what they do, because they're hypocrites and they don't obey what they say. And the reason I think there's in other words, he's not saying I'm being completely serious here. You have to obey everything these guys tell you, because he had conflicts with them on their teachings about how, you're supposed to take care of your parents, but they would come out with a way around helping your parents. You just say, oh, there's a gift devoted to God, therefore I'm not going to help my parents with it and stuff. So he had a criticism with that. He had a criticism with ceremonial washings and obsessively doing these things. He had a criticism with their view of the Sabbath and so on. So those would be things that they claim, and he didn't think that you needed to follow them. So I think this is kind of, my initial thought was that he's being kind of sarcastic when he says these kinds of things. The other possibility is, as far as when they're in the seat of Moses, it's when they're actually telling you exactly what's in the law. When they're telling you exactly what is in the law, you'd better obey them, but just don't follow their example, because they don't actually follow that. They come up with all sorts of ways of getting around the law. So something in there.
Powerful. So you're saying that I'm completely right. Right, thank you. Let's continue.
Of Israel as a nation state in Matthew 21, I think 43. So,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we're living in the Christian era, but they don't accept that. So they had to kind of come up with a rabbinic means of having the religion without the temple in the land.
Now, a lot of people labeled Israel. I don't, people label me as anti-Semitic. I was like, man, I love Jews. I love everybody. But a lot of people label the current state of Israel as the synagogue of Satan. Is there any truth to that?
I think in the New Testament, when Paul is talking about, because Jesus says that in early on in Revelation,
verse,
right? It's Revelation 2 and 3, where Jesus is rebuking the churches, and he says, I will make those who claim to be Jews that are not Jews bow down before you. Talking about in the resurrection. And then Paul says in Thessalonians that the Jews are contrary to all people because they rejected the Messiah. So I believe that rabbinic Judaism is against Christianity, yes, and it is a synagogue of Satan, in that its philosophy and its theology are essentially collated against Jesus being the Messiah. Like,
he again says collated, man.
It's not a genetic thing, right? So
Right,
sin isn't genetic. Sin is
Right.
a choice that we make,
Mhm.
and everybody sins.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, is it anywhere in the Bible where God's chosen people, family of Israel?
So here's the issue on that. I kind of don't know really how to respond to this, honestly, because it's like they asked a very clear question, and his response is one that like lots of people I know who will be very anti-Jewish, who will come and say, "Oh, Israel is synagogue of Satan, Jews are synagogue of Satan," and all that, which is kind of which goes against the entire traditional Christian perspective. His take seems to be more of a little bit of a nuance, while also clearly being very, very anti-Judaism. I would say that personally speaking, so if you say that that you think rabbinic Judaism is against Christianity and therefore fits the description of the synagogue of Satan, I guess you have to think about that a little bit. But so it's not like rabbinic Judaism is in and of itself deliberately and fully anti-Christianity, although it has a lot of it has anti-Christian historical aspects and Christian doctrines, some anti-Christian history, some anti-Christianity history, because it early on dealt with Christianity as a heresy. So it was dealing with heresies and also dealt with Christianity as a heresy of Judaism and responded to it in terms of how you respond to a heretical sect. That said, there's a lot of Jewish history that is where like I recently just saw certain commenters on a certain rabbi, for example, who says that that we don't believe that there's anything evil or anything bad about Christianity. We just think that that it would be evil or blasphemous for a Jew to become a Christian. But if Gentiles want to be Christians, we think that they will be together with us in heaven, for example. So, it's a very complicated topic.
Yeah, on the issue of this, specifically the question, is this the synagogue of Satan? I think you can interpret that passage in multiple ways, but I mean, in context, it's talking about people who are persecuting you. So so you could kind of more generalize it to anyone who's opposed to Christ or something like that, but you could also not generalize it and say, hey, this is speaking specifically to Jews who are persecuting the early church, and that's the synagogue of Satan. And therefore you could say, well, I'm only applying that to Jews who are in a position of power and they use that power to persecute Christians, and we're calling them the synagogue of Satan. So anyway, that's why I don't use passages like that, because there are quite frequently multiple ways to interpret these things. Hey, I did want to point this out. Ready?
Yes.
Look at this. You got Christ rules everything around me. Oh, Orthobro detected. He says, you two are way too smart to be this ignorant. If you objectively looked at the Talmud like you do the Quran. AP, even theoretically, should we examine the Talmud the same way we examine the Quran?
Yes.
Are those two parallels? Are those two parallels?
Oh, no.
I mean, in terms of the kind of text they are, should we apply the same?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The fact that that's how you phrase things already means you don't know what you're talking about, dude. And so, AP, you think this is just what do you think? You think there's a guy who studied the Talmud, or there's a guy who saw a meme on X, a meme that we've already gone through? We did an entire long live stream where we went through all these passages and actually looked them up in the Talmud. Guess what? Sometimes they are messed up things. There are messed up things in there. Other times it's some rabbi saying it, and then another rabbi says the opposite. And it never gets put in the little memes. It never, ever, ever. And it'll just say, the meme will say, instead of saying Rabbi so-and-so said this, and another rabbi responded to them because they were arguing, they'll just say, the Talmud says this, and this is what Jews believe. And it's like multiple levels of deception there.
The very, very funny example that I'm just thinking of just now, because it came up recently, of that. Let me quickly bring this up here. Sepharia. As an honorary Jew, I like reading Sepharia.
Hey,
Let's see.
one second, just before I get rid of this comment so we can see your screen there. Just want to point out, it says, if you objectively looked at the Talmud like you do the Quran, you would be heroes for Christ and save so many Jews. What you mean is if we went around like Nick Fuentes, and the Talmud, and this is what Jews believe, and this is what Jews believe, then we'd be heroes.
You really think you will win
heroes
Jews over like that?
Yeah. You think that's what really impresses Jews when they go, wait, dude, do you know what happens when you bring up the Talmud to an average Jew walking down the street in Israel? They have no clue what you're talking about. That's what happens. I know, because I've brought this up with people where I was specifically saying, hey guys, you know what people are saying about you guys in general and stuff. One, they're saying we can't walk down the street without people spitting on us. And guess what? Christ rules everything around me. You're probably the same sort of person who shares those kinds of videos. Look, here's a video of Jews spitting. You see, this is what Jews do. I'm saying, hey, you guys might want to respond to some of these things that people are saying about you. And I'm telling them, saying, so for instance, they'll say about the Talmud, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there and they have no clue what I'm talking about. Why? Because you have a very diverse Jewish population with a bunch of different perspectives, running from all just completely atheist and secular to extremely, extremely rigid and so on. And you've got everything in between. And the idea that Jews are sitting around here, yes, Jesus is born like a human excrement. That's what you guys think. And you think that if we go and tell them that's what they believe, then their hearts will melt and they'll become Christians. Are you seriously this stupid? So anyway, dude, you go do things how you want, and leave it to the grown-ups to decide what we want to do.
So here's the thing. As David also pointed out, Jews usually have the average Jew knows nothing about the Talmud, except so the average Jew knows what the Talmud is, and the average Jew has probably heard. The average Jew has probably heard one or two phrases from the Talmud. The average Jew has not read the Talmud, and you don't really read the Talmud. It's not really technically reading the Talmud. It's a huge library of things that you need to study. The average Jew has not read even like 1% of what the Talmud says. So this whole, why don't you talk about the Talmud as if it was the Quran, is just complete nonsense. It's stupid. There is a tradition in Rabbinic Judaism that the Talmud is studied even more than the Torah, but this is only done by the highest rabbis because it is because the Talmud is studied in order to properly understand the Torah. That's what it is. So it is a key to understanding the Torah, and it has like here what David just pointed out. So here is a passage. Here is a passage from the Talmud, from Shabbat 31a. Very, very funny exchange here. The sages taught there was an incident involving one Gentile who came before Shammai. The Gentile said to Shammai, how many Torahs do you have? He said to him, two, the written Torah and the oral Torah. The Gentile said to him, with regard to the written Torah, I believe you. With regard to the oral Torah, actually, this is not what I was going to go into. Yesterday you did not. Oh yeah, here. There was another incident involving one Gentile who came before Shammai and said to Shammai, convert me on condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I am standing on one foot. Shammai pushed him away with the builder's cubit in his hand. This was a common measuring stick, and Shammai was a builder by trade. But look at this. You have him pushing away this Gentile who just says he wants to convert. What is this? This is how Judaism treats people. You see, this is directly in the Talmud. This is directly in the Talmud. What is wrong with these people? Funny thing is that this is just one of those instances where two different things are presented. And Shammai is actually, so Jewish tradition revolved around two movements or two figures. The rabbinic Jewish tradition early on, or the Pharisaic tradition. One was following an elder called Shammai, and the other was following an elder called Hillel, who became very famous and popular. And Hillel is generally the one who is with whom Rabbinic Judaism is very much in line. After presenting this incident, it then goes on and says, the same Gentile came before Hillel. He converted him and said to him, that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is its interpretation. Go study. You see how in this tiny passage here, there are two completely different attitudes presented by sages here. You could just read this one here and say, look at this. This is directly from the Talmud. This is how they treat people who want to convert to Judaism.
Convert, and they hit you with a stick, and they beat you with a stick.
And yet here it
And they
directly
kill you
says-
with a stick. You killed him.
Yet here the good perspective as presented in the Talmud is that the Gentile comes to him and says, I want to learn, teach me. And Hillel says to him, just that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is its interpretation. Go study. A sentiment also very, very popular in Christianity in the New Testament.
Yeah, guys, you see how this works? It's giving you multiple perspectives on these things. And what happens in the little memes from the Groypers and Orthobros and so on, it'll be, and we've seen this over and over and over again. One of the most common ones that keeps coming up is the Talmud says that if a Gentile learns the law, he must be executed. And you look at the reasoning he was saying, because they've stolen it, was given to us and they're stealing it, so they're basically robbers and so on. And with the understanding these guys had no authority to put anyone to death and so on. So they're just saying you deserve death because we treat you like a robber. And then, so they'll put that in their little meme. They don't put what happens right after that when another rabbi responds and says, no, if a Gentile learns the law, he's like the high priest. And you just get these completely different perspectives. They go through there, and what is this? This is a bunch of commentaries from rabbis giving their views and so on. You go through, and you say you pick the ones that you want to use to say this is what Jews are, and then you do that. You leave out everything else, and you say this is what Jews believe, even though your average Jew has never even heard that, and the ones who have read it would not interpret it the way you're doing.
Yeah. There is one perspective, which is that so Jesus most likely is very familiar with this quote, because so Hillel the elder came a little bit before Christ, and the Pharisees that Jesus was interacting with, that he was pretty much participating in worship with, would also follow the school of Hillel the Elder. So this phrase here, which is very, very popular in rabbinic Judaism and was popular among the Pharisees, was probably very, very much known to them. So there is a perspective that when Jesus repeats the phrase of do unto other as you wish to be done to you, and so on, that he's actually interacting directly with the tradition that is presented here by Hillel the Elder, and it's actually kind of responding to it or correcting it. Of course, that is a view that he's correcting it or saying something even better than it was established in the Jewish tradition that he was around. So this is all very, very much connected, but you don't really learn this when you listen to Nick Fuentes and the Groypers.
Yeah, that's true. So the general principle for all you Groypers, Orthobros, keyboard jihadis, and so on who are watching, the general principle is, if you want to criticize the Talmud, just do it accurately and don't say, especially after you've completely ripped something out of context and ignored what comes right after and so on. You would not respect anyone who comes to you and treats your book like this. So if you want to criticize it, find something. And if you want to criticize it, say it accurately and say, here's what a rabbi says in the Talmud. This is what a rabbi says in the Talmud. And for anyone who agrees with that rabbi and doesn't agree with the rabbi who responded, for anyone who agrees with that rabbi, that's messed up because this rabbi said something really messed up. You wouldn't hear a word of criticism for me, because that's how you should criticize something if you want to criticize it, whether you're talking about the Bible, the Quran, anything else.
The funny thing is also one of the things that should also be noticed when Jesus interacts with the Pharisees in the Gospels. There is a lot of emphasis on the Pharisees because Jesus was interacting with the Pharisees very frequently and was arguing with them. But the thing is, he was also very, very good with them, actually. He also had lots of good interaction with certain Pharisees. Most famously, we know of two Pharisees, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. So two Pharisees that were actually famous, that are also known in Jewish tradition, that were very, very sympathetic toward him, that are considered converts. But even later on, we have a Pharisee, Gamaliel, for example, who is very respected in early rabbinic Judaism, who is credited in the book of Acts as when the Sanhedrin seeks to punish the early disciples of Jesus after the death of Jesus, he speaks up and says, brothers, be reasonable. Don't seek to kill these people. So you have a very famous Jewish Pharisee stand up in the Sanhedrin to say, guys, let's not be ridiculous. Because the funny thing is, as much as people nowadays think of the Pharisees and say, look, Jesus was against the Pharisees and they killed him and so on, it wasn't actually the Pharisees who were mostly influential in having Jesus executed and the others persecuted. It was actually the Sadducees who were very much influential in getting Jesus killed and having the others killed. Caiaphas, the high priest, was most likely a Sadducee. The ones that were most likely to just go for the let's just kill him option were the Sadducees, not the Pharisees. The Pharisees were very were heavy debaters, and they were very much opposed to what Jesus was doing, and they had big arguments with him, but they were also friendly to Jesus on many occasions because Jesus was one of them. The Pharisees were not the main problem. The Pharisees are what turned into the rabbinic Jews. The Sadducees died out. The Sadducees were the literalist, highly legalistic people who were basically sucking up to the Roman authorities and thinking of just doing whatever will please the Roman authorities and whatever will preserve the peace. They were also opponents of the Pharisees. But after the temple fell, the Sadducees were no longer relevant and they died out. The Pharisees took over and they became the rabbinic Jews. And they were not the ones who were mainly behind executing Christ or persecuting and executing the apostles and so on. So there is a lot of nuance to this. Jesus and the others never collectively depicted the Jews as a blanket one group and put them all together as collectively evil. Never happened.
Check this out. Wade Davies said, do you want to criticize the Talmud, D. Wood?
No,
no, not really. Don't want to criticize the Talmud, the Tripitaka, the Bhagavad Gita, the Book of Mormon. Not really interested. Why? Because I kind of prioritize the group that's rapidly expanding due to birth rates, and it admits that it wants to kill me and all my friends. I kind of focus on the group that wants to kill me and all my friends, and is about to take over large European cities and so on. More concerned with that than with a group that. What have Jews ever done to me? What have Jews ever claimed that they want to do to me? Right. So I mean, keep in mind, I get endless, constant threats to kill me and everyone around me and so on from one group. Tend to respond to those guys. So yeah, I prioritize that. I'm not telling anyone else because there are people who deal with Mormonism and yeah, I'm not telling anyone else what they want to address, what they should be addressing. Saying me personally, I kind of go with whoever is trying to exterminate me or whoever is aiding them in that in various ways. So that's
well, to be fair, we are also paid by the Jews to not criticize them. So
that's true. That's true. We get fat stacks of shekels. And then this one, D. Wood lumping. Dude, this is so brilliant. Like,
oh,
D. Wood.
Please.
Wait,
okay.
Put it back. Put it back.
Let's be done with it.
No.
I don't care about
Dude, just one second. Look, D. Wood. No, this is the point. D. Wood lumping ortho with Groiper and Muzzy. Gay pride. Dude, what have I been saying this entire time? If you guys are doing something and then you flip out when someone just does the exact same thing and you flip out, you've got a serious problem with hypocrisy, right? When you say, oh, if you disagree with us, you're supporting the Antichrist. And I go, no, if you disagree with me, you're supporting the Antichrist. And you cry like babies, then you got a problem. What have we been pointing out this entire time? What did Andrew Wilson, look, you see, they're all part of this group. They're all part of this group that all want to bring about the naming of the Antichrist and stuff. You lump everyone together. People who don't share the same views, but they share some particular view, you then lump them all together on all kinds of things. You guys do it over and over again. And you guys lumped us together earlier in this live stream. You lumped us together with Charlie Kirk and said we're all part of the same group. That was on Jay Dyer's little show that he was just on. So what do I do? Oh, okay. Since that's what we do, we disagree with someone and we lump them together with everyone else. Or I'll do it with you. And then that's so gay. It's gay when I do it, not when you guys do it constantly, right? I'm imitating you, you giant moron. I'm imitating what you guys are doing. And you instantly flip out, which is what I started off by saying. You're complete hypocrites, just like the Pharisees were. And Jesus condemned it. Would he be okay with your hypocrisy? My goodness. All right. There you go. Back to everything you wanted to cover.
Are Are you happy now?
Yeah.
Powerful. Orthodox Study Bible says about 23:2, to sit in Moses' seat means to hold the succession of office down from Moses himself. In the synagogue, the teacher spoke while seated as a sign of authority. St. John Chrysostom notes that the scribes were depraved in thought and in heart, yet Jesus still upholds the dignity of their office, for they speak not their own words, but God's. Likewise, within the church, the clergy are to be shown respect because they hold the apostolic office. So pretty much the perspective that you just talked about in a way. So powerful.
Israel. Do they got immunity from the Ten Commandments? No, of course.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is where things get ugly.
Right,
Sin isn't genetic. Sin is
Right.
a choice that we make,
Mhm.
and everybody sins.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, is it anywhere in the Bible where God's chosen people, family of Israel, do they got immunity from the Ten Commandments? No, of course not.
That's why rabbinic philosophy comes about, is to come up with excuses and
Right.
casuistry. I mean, you've probably seen like the way that Hasidic communities
Mhm.
come up with creative, shall we say, ways to get around the Sabbath. You know what I'm talking about?
Go into it.
Okay, so like if you can look it up, this
That escalated very, very quickly. How did this entire conversation suddenly get into these twins basically accusing Jews of acting like they're exempt from the Ten Commandments? What even is the implication here? What exactly are they implying? What are Jews doing that makes them exempt from the Ten Commandments, apparently? And then Jay Dyer then responds to it and says that Hasidic Jews come up with creative ways to get around the law, and he's going to expand on that in a little bit. But what just happened here?
It's like you have two sides, the Hodge twins and Jay Dyer. Both sides get all their information from Candace Owens, but Jay Dyer knows a little bit more about the Bible a lot more than the Hodge twins. And so he sort of brings this knowledge together with his knowledge of the Bible and so on. But and then these guys are having a discussion, and their discussion is based on all the ideas they got from Candace Owens.
I mean, until this point, you could say, okay, everything was going okay. But these guys will probably start fuming when you call them anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. But this just very quickly, out of nowhere, completely developed into pure anti-Semitism. How did this happen?
Do they got immunity from the Ten where God's chosen people, family of Israel? Do they got immunity from the Ten Commandments?
What just happened? Like this quickly just escalated into complete anti-Semitism for no reason at all. We're not even given any context.
No, of course not.
That's why rabbinic philosophy comes about, is to come up with excuses and
Right.
casuistry. I mean, you've probably seen like the way that Hasidic communities
Mhm.
come up with creative, shall we say, ways to get around the Sabbath. You know what I'm talking about?
Go into it.
Okay, so like if you can look it up, it's not me making it up. There's a couple examples. Is like, because you can't do any work on the Sabbath, right?
Right. Sunday
Right.
you can't work. You'll be
So-
stoned to death. I just read that. Yeah.
So the way that they get around that is you can't flip a light.
So nobody's actually stoned to death for doing work on the Sabbath. This is even in rabbinic tradition understood as not to be taken literally. So
Switch, right?
Right.
So you move a switch that doesn't cause the electrical current to actually be cut off.
Yeah.
You just remove a switch and then randomly you let the current be turned off.
Uh-huh.
And so you're not working. Okay, another example is you
That's crazy.
can't walk outside on the Sabbath. Okay.
Mhm.
In rabbinic Judaism, in his strict Hasidic rabbinic Judaism. Well, what if we took a string and we looped it all around this?
So what he's doing here is he's describing certain practices that people in Jewish traditions developed, in where they say we can technically not work and not use any light switches or things like that on the Sabbath, but we have to keep some things running. So let's invent a system where we can keep God's commandments and not work and not flip a light switch on the Sabbath. But we have something in place where it does it by itself without us doing any work. This is somehow depicted as trying to deceive God. Is it really? What are they actually doing? They're actually trying to obey the law of not doing any work on the Sabbath, while finding ways to get things going out of necessity while obeying God's commands. This kind of strikes me like a very strict way. Now, to be very, very fair, I don't think that's a very good way of looking at religion. but who am I to speak? That said, they are literally trying to obey God's commandments while trying to find a way to get things going. How is this considered deceptive or bad? In my opinion. So when I was exploring Judaism, actually, one thing that bothered me and one criticism that I would have, in my humble opinion, was that that there is extreme legalism, which is what basically Jesus is pointing out in the New Testament, in the rabbinic tradition. Extreme legalism. And this is like, for example, on the Sabbath, you're not supposed to use a vehicle, use a car, which is why in Orthodox Judaism, people usually live very close to a synagogue because they want to go to the synagogue, but they also can't use vehicles and all that. So, in response to this, in America, in a place where the land is very, very big and lots of things are very far away from each other, conservative Jews, for example, said we shouldn't take it so literally. We should allow for the use of vehicles on the Sabbath, because what's more important, attending the synagogue or keeping the law of not using vehicles? So they came up with a way to reinterpret things. Orthodox Judaism says, no, this is unacceptable. We simply do not do things on the Sabbath. And when I look at this, I think it seems to be kind of fitting the description of what Jesus says when he says that they follow the word of the law, but not the spirit of the law. And with a completely non-Christian view, the whole highly legalistic aspect of Judaism, of rabbinic Judaism, did really bother me looking at it, and I still think it's a little bit questionable. The whole let's just do everything with complete precision to keep the law is kind of not how I would understand the Bible. But then again, I'm just some dude.
Hey, I did want to point out, just because it's kind of related to a bunch of issues, what you were just saying, as far as this sounding like Jesus. I've pointed this out before, but when I was in Israel the first time, I was actually talking to a Jewish guy who's really knowledgeable. He like studies the archaeology and stuff like that. And I don't even remember, we were talking about something, and he goes, Jesus way won. And I said, what? He said, the way of Jesus way, the Jesus way won. And I said, what do you mean he won? He goes, so this guy viewed Jesus as a religious reformer. And guess what? There are lots of Jews who view him that way, right? They don't have a negative view. They think they think Christians exaggerated things and so on, and made him into the Son of God and all these things. But there are lots of Jews who just believe that Jesus was a critic of, too much religious formalism and stuff like that, and telling people to get back to like what's really important and the spirit of the law and the heart of the law and so on. And he said, but he said, the way of Jesus won. And he says, if you look at the criticisms Jesus brought against the Pharisees and stuff, he says there's no one is going to get injured on the Sabbath right now and not be taken to a hospital, even though like back then it would, of course you can't drive on the Sabbath, even though but they would have had problem doing any of that because they had a problem even with Jesus healing on the Sabbath and so on. He's like, there's no place where you're going to get injured and people aren't going to take you to the hospital or something like that. All the things that Jesus was pointing out as far as you're going too far, he's saying, that's now normal. It's now normal to a more moderate view is now normal and so on. So anyway,
powerful.
Some people view Jesus as a successful critic of like extremism.
Powerful.
This parking lot to make it an.
Did you see he was doing the Nazi salute? See, you caught him.
Well,
People
what
were
if we
pointing
took
that
a
out.
string and we looped it all around this
See?
parking lot to make it an enclosure,
Right.
and then we're not outside anymore because it's enclosed. And I'm serious. It sounds like a joke, but so
Kinda
this,
like the
It's all like a joke, man.
before Israel was established, Palestine was there, and who lived there?
the letter.
What?
and
There's still Palestine was there.
I kind of want to go back to Palestine. So before Israel was established, Palestine was there, and who lived there? It was everybody,
Christians
Muslims,
live there. Yeah. So
Jews,
right.
Muslims.
Yeah.
They were all there in Palestine together.
Yes. In fact, I just recently read a book by a bunch of it's a French historian and intelligence analyst doing a retro.
You didn't read a book by a
called
French
British
historian.
Spies that the British Empire sent out to spy out and to do reconnaissance on all the Middle East, because at the time of the British Empire, like 1900, 1890s, 1900, 1910, a lot of the Middle East hadn't been charted yet, right? So they sent out very famous spies. Even some of them are even women, which is weird, like Gertrude Bell, T.E. Lawrence, St. John Philby. They sent them out to spy because oil had just been discovered. British Empire wanted oil, and so they're called black gold spies. And so they went and basically just charted the whole land, all of it, got an assessment of things that people didn't even know existed. Like there were churches, old remnants of churches in Jordan that had been destroyed because it became Muslim, but there were just the old cathedrals that people didn't even know existed. So there's even evidence of communities of Christians in Jordan that people didn't know about until these spies got there, is what I'm trying to get at. So it's a very complicated, nuanced history of the Middle East. I'm not a Middle East historian, but I've read a lot on it. So I would say, yes, you have a lot of people living there.
I'm not a Middle East historian, but I play one on the internet.
Very amenable to all the people groups prior to the founding of the nation of Israel, because
He has a very interesting way of getting to the point.
what happens is the British Empire decides that in order to
you ask this guy what time it is, he'll tell you how to build a watch, and then eventually tell you what time it is.
they wanted.
So this is a long way of saying it's 2:30.
Set up there for a purpose, for a reason. Originally to find oil, but there wasn't really oil in Israel, but there's oil around.
David, ask me.
Hey, little
David, I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question. So, how did America come into existence?
Well, I was reading a book 17 years ago. It's a book by famous Chinese historian Cheng Shi, and was reading that, and it was talking about a history of China and how this relates to the study of astronomy, astronomy is, things in space and so on. And so anyway, I got really interested in space for a while. And anyway, was studying, Halley's Comet. And then, I was wondering, who's this Halley guy? So I had to look up who this Halley guy was. And I found out that he had a cousin named George, and then that made me think of George Washington. So anyway, all this is to point out that George Washington.
David, never mind. I don't want to know anymore.
Okay.
So they had this nation state established, Balfour Declaration, that was all bragged about by the Rothschilds, that they got that through. It was all partly their work. Moses Hessel confirms that as well from decades earlier. So then it became.
All right. What else is there? Are Muslims closer to Christians? This is actually something interesting. Let's look at that.
Like I look at Muslims and Christians. I think we have more in common than, let's say, Christians with Jews. Judaism. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be.
Maybe
I disagree on that.
Okay.
But only because I would have agreed with you 10 years ago, and then I started debating Muslim.
Finally, Jay says something accurate for the first time in his entire life.
Something that's not completely insane and ridiculous and sounds like a 12-year-old will say.
I've literally never heard a single real thing coming out of his mouth until. I'm just kidding. For those who are just chiming in.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to annoy.
I've said many, many times that Jay Dyer has a lot of good points, and I have a lot of respect for him and agree with him on many, many things. But yeah, here's something that we can agree on. But I'm curious about his reasoning.
Muslims and learning Islam.
Okay, so I'm ignorant when it comes to Muslims.
I mean, I just think that they're both in the same level of disagreement.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And if you look into a lot of academic treatments of the history of Islam, they'll talk about how indebted it is to the Talmud. Yes. So I believe Islam is actually very heavily Talmud.
What? Who says that?
It's to the Talmud. Academic treatments of the history of Islam, they'll talk about how indebted it is to the Talmud.
I think he's talking about like
there's one thing or two things that Islam, that the Quran obviously took from Jews, from Jewish oral tradition.
Well, it's not just the Quran though. So we're probably both thinking of Surah 5 verse 32, where it actually quotes it. But even the story right before that about the bird scratching around, so that's a Jewish story. So you do have Jewish stories. You can't say that they're all like taken from the Talmud. What you could say is Muhammad's hearing stuff from Jews, and some of this stuff also gets put in the Talmud and stuff. Some of these stories, in other words, you have stories that are going around and stuff. Muhammad's taking these stories. And a lot of these same stories end up in the Talmud, being recorded in the Talmud as well. And then certain ideas like in the Hadith as well. But in the Hadith, you have the story of, you have Muhammad explaining embryological development and so on. And he says that it remains as a drop of sperm for 40 days, that's actually in the Talmud. That's actually in the Talmud. And so whether Muhammad got this directly from someone who's telling him what's in there or something like this, or like it's just a common story and stuff like that, not sure. But yeah, you do have, it's basically Muhammad is interacting with Jews in Medina. Those Jews in Medina have a lot of the same stories that are incorporated into the Talmud. So yeah, you have things in the Muslim sources that you'll also find in the Talmud. And it's clear where Muhammad was getting this stuff. He's getting it from the Jews he's interacting with.
Yeah, so there is one of those things very famously known where the Quran basically says, because of that we decreed upon the children of Israel that whoever kills a soul, unless for a soul or for corruption in the land, it is as if he had slain mankind entirely, and whoever saves one, it is as if he had saved mankind entirely. And our messengers had certainly come to them with clear proofs. Then many of them went astray, and then it says, just kill everyone who causes corruption and so on, and slaughter them brutally and cut off their hands and feet. Anyway, but this tradition here where it says, we decreed upon the children of Israel, Muslims think that this is something that Allah told the Jews in the Torah, but it actually comes from the Talmud. It's actually literally rabbinic interpretation in the Talmud on the Torah. So, but the issue here is, again, as David just pointed out, it wouldn't be that Muslims took stuff from the Talmud. It's rather just that Muhammad was a dude he just heard things and just took them as a revelation. He believed whatever people said, and Jews famously probably told him this. So he took it and said, "Oh, and this is what Allah taught the Jews." So he was simply adopting what he was not understanding. And this is actually a big blunder and shows that the Quran is completely made up by a person, because it treats that as divine revelation when it was just rabbinic interpretation. Similarly, the Quran has Muhammad hearing certain Christian folk tales and then adopting them as truth that was revealed by Allah. So this is one of those instances, but that doesn't really mean that the Quran, that the Quran is Talmudic or took things from the Talmud or anything like that.
Yeah, I just want to add real quick, just because it's hilarious, and there may be people who don't know how hilarious this is. You point out it's basically hilarious that the Quran is claiming to be the speech of Allah, and it can't distinguish between when a Jew is saying something that's from the Torah and when a Jew is saying something from a later rabbinic commentator, something like that. Muhammad couldn't tell the difference. He thinks that all of this is like straight out of the Torah, right? This particular, but here it's doubly hilarious in this instance because Muhammad leaves something out that's in the rabbinic commentary that is absolutely crucial for understanding what's going on here. So you read this, and this happens right after the story of Cain and Abel in the Quran. So Cain kills Abel, and then a bird shows up and teaches Cain how to bury Abel and so on. And then it says, because of that, we decreed for the children of Israel. Like, because of what? It says, because of that, we decreed upon the children of Israel that whoever kills a soul or for corruption done in the land, it is as if he's slain mankind entirely. It's like, where are you getting that? There's no connection to that in the Quran with what happens right before it. You could read it 1,000 times. What's the connection? Cain kills Abel, and so therefore we decree. What's the connection? You actually have it in the Talmud. The connection is there in the Talmud.
Hey, keep talking. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. So in the Talmud, there's actually the connection. It gives the story of Cain and Abel, but then God says to Cain, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And the Jewish commentator in the Talmud reasons. He makes an inference based on the word that's used there for blood. So you read it in the Bible, in your English translation, it just says, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. A rabbi said, actually, what it says there is your brother's bloods cry out to me from the ground. Your brother's bloods. It says, why is it using a plural word? Why is it using plural here? And he says, it seems like God is telling us that when you kill someone, you're not just killing him, you're killing all of his future descendants as well, because it's all the blood. This was a person who was going to give birth to tons of people who would fill the world. I mean, he's one of the first human beings, and so he's gonna this person's descendants are going to fill the world, and you killed him. By saying bloods, it's as if you're saying that, it's as if God is saying you killed everyone that was going to descend from him. And then it says, and then the conclusion is, therefore, if you kill someone, it's as if you're killing all mankind. So that's notice it's actually connected. There's the story of Cain and Abel, then this person picking up on the use of the word bloods there and making an inference and then concluding this. The Quran tells a story. Here's the story of Cain and Abel. Therefore, if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. It's like, what? That makes zero sense. It makes perfect sense if you have the rest of the commentary in there. But Muhammad, so it's like Muhammad is hearing things from the Jews, and he's missing some things. He's missing some details. He doesn't know what he's saying. So this is the same thing that we're familiar with the Quran saying that like Jesus is the word of Allah, and them not understanding what that means and so on. That's Muhammad. He's pretty sloppy in what he's including in the Quran.
Powerful. Anyway,
why are you trying to threaten the Orthodox with your?
I believe Islam is actually very heavily Talmudic. In fact, there's a lot of things in Islam that don't make sense, really, other than it's just what God tells you to do. Like they have a lot of the dietary restrictions that come out of the Judaism.
like here's the funny thing. The first person from the Jewish Christian camp that Muhammad was actually influenced by, according to Islamic tradition, was a Christian. Or let's say a supposed Christian who was a convert to Christianity or to some form of heretical Christianity. We don't really know what it was, but probably some heretical new convert to Christianity who influenced Muhammad. Much of what Muhammad learned early on was from Jews, and later on it was very much from Christians. So it started with a little bit of Christianity built on top of polytheism, then turned toward Jews, and then ended up in massacring and rejecting Jews, and then turning toward Christians again, and then eventually rejecting and trying to massacre them, upon which Muhammad died. So it is a polytheistic religious system that was established with syncretism taken from Christians or heretical Christians and certain Jews. It's kind of weird to call it just Talmudic. That like what the heck? That doesn't even mean anything.
Tradition and the rabbinical traditions for no reason. So when you ask Muslims, like, well, why do you have to do the wudu washings and why do you abstain from pork and all this stuff? It's like, well, because Allah says to. And then when you look into the sections in the Quran that have these dietary restrictions, it's sort of like copied and pasted out of the Old Testament, out of Leviticus, but there's no real reason for it.
Plagiarism.
It is. It's a copy paste plagiarism religion. And then if you look at Christianity, there's a reason why at that time God gave those dietary laws.
He said it was unclean or something like that. That's the verbiage.
It had a pedagogical significance, right? So when you get to the New Testament, you guys are reading the Bible through. When you get to Paul's letters, and Jesus does this too, like they will explain the purpose of the dietary laws and the ceremonial laws, as they're called. They were intended to typify the coming Messiah. So they're types, signs, and symbols. Like Jesus is the Passover. So when the Jews are reading the Passover, that was a symbolic lesson, teaching them that the coming Messiah will be
but how is
also a symbol of the church, the body of the believers that are a living temple, Peter says. So likewise with the ceremonial laws, when you have these restrictions about not eating an unclean animal versus a quote clean animal, when you get to the New Testament, when you read the book of Acts, Paul will say that now that the covenant is fulfilled.
It's kind of funny because the question was whether Judaism or Islam had more in common with Christianity, but now he's
let the man answer, man.
Going into a completely
let the man answer for 3 hours.
All animals are clean. That pedagogical, what matters is the spiritual principle behind the unclean and clean foods is evil actions versus good actions.
Okay.
So it's a symbol that symbolizes moral good and evil.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's fulfilled. And so religions like Islam and Rabbinic Judaism are trying to keep things that don't have a purpose without that key figure of the Messiah who fulfills the purpose of those things.
Because those things you said is plagiarized. They're taking things out of context that doesn't make sense in their Bible. Because that religion is only about 600 years old.
Well, it's in the 600s. Muhammad's pops up and starts saying that he's getting prophetic messages. He also thought he was possessed too, by the way. There's a hadith where which you don't know, hadiths are like the oral traditions.
Hey, this is true.
This is true. Hey, as long as Jay's talking about Islam, he's getting some things right for once.
Yeah. Jay, how about you just talk about Islam?
Yeah, just focus on that. Don't talk about anything else.
And Muslims believe that you have to believe hadiths, like the strong hadiths. They're just as necessary as the Quran. So it's not just the Quran. A lot of times Muslims say, "Oh, you just have to believe the Quran." You also have to believe all the hadiths, which is this vast books of traditions. And there's one of them.
So here's Mikhail Emmanuel saying, will you debate Jay on Monday? He offered it today, which could have added more context to what Jay is saying. I said it 50 million times. I invite Jay to go live together with us on Monday. I said it before. I said it before he set up a spaces where he then was just weirdly attacking me, which just seems kind of bad faith and dishonest. But I said it before as well. I am happy to invite him and to talk to him on Monday. The fact that he just jumps in now and says, "Oh, you're not even talking to me," is kind of weird considering that he's the one who blocked me.
Yeah. And again,
Say one word and I'll block you. But you need to always be nothing but respectful and open to anything.
it's like, how do you not see it? It's, I don't know. It's weird.
Says that Muhammad was worried because he would fall over and he would start foaming at the mouth. Right. And he was like, I feel like I might be possessed. And all of his like warlord Arab followers were like, "No, you're good, dude. You're good. It's a prophecy. It's a prophecy."
Hey, what's this Islamophobia going on? These guys all laughing at Muhammad just because, he thought he was demon possessed.
I'm going to call care to.
By the way, yeah. So, yeah, you got a couple different things. So you have Muhammad initially thinking that he's demon possessed. Then you have Muhammad trying repeatedly to hurl himself off a cliff because he didn't want people to make fun of him for being demon possessed. Then you got the story of the satanic verses that Muhammad delivers revelations from Satan because he can't tell the difference between a revelation from Allah and a revelation from Satan. Then you've got the story of Muhammad believing that he's been bewitched, that he was a victim of a magic spell that gave him delusional thoughts and false beliefs. Then you have the story of him receiving his revelations, and it sounds like something out of an exorcist film, not like something that we would be familiar with from a Christian perspective. He's like, he's pointing out, he's like, his face is turning red, he's falling on the ground and so on, and so they would start sweating and profusely, even if it's cold and so on. So you have that kind of things. And then you have the story of Muhammad's interaction with the men of Al-Zut, who, if you believe these were humans, then he was getting gangbanged, or there is the interpretation that these were jinn. And it's interesting, the word there that's translated as they mounted him or they rode him all night long, which again sounds like a bunch of guys gangbanging him. If that's referring to jinn, the same word when used of spirit beings can also mean possessed, and so he was possessed all night long, or getting gangbanged by these jinn and so on. So anyway, the point is, there's a lot of stuff in the Muslim sources where Muhammad sounds spiritually really, really messed up, not to mention morally messed up.
With halal gangbang.
Well, hey, whoa! Oh my goodness! What?
What?
Look what Sal said. Sal.
I'm working on an Albert song. Awesome.
Sal makes nothing but bangers, man. But
all right, let's let me take a few super chats here. CA says, "Do you support prosecution of Orthodox in Ukraine?" I support prosecution of everyone who needs to be prosecuted, or who has committed a crime, or possibly committed a crime, or who is accused of a crime. Do I support persecution of Orthodox in Ukraine? Definitely not. That's a completely different question. But you didn't really ask that question, so yeah.
Yeah, you didn't ask that. That's specifically about prosecution for crimes.
Yeah. Zut in the butt says
in the butt.
AP David Wood, do you support a state for the Al-Zut, a place where they play can touch butt in the piece? I think Sindh area of Pakistan is where they are from. Yes, 100%.
Someone the other day was posting a little clip from Cypress Hill. This before your time, AP, long before you were born, but there was a song, "Insane in the Membrane," insane in the brain. But they were posting that insane in the membrane, but they were posting Al-Zut in the man butt. Anyway,
you think I don't know insane in the membrane?
People are very rude. It's before your time, bud.
I know this. I know it. Ayatollah Khamenei, Jay Dyer is following the most simplistic Russian conspiracy theories and most base Russian Orthodox conspiracy theories that only the most mentally dented believe in. Orthodoxy is about finding God, not anti-Semitic geopolitics. Now, these are some very, very mean words about Jay Dyer, which I would personally never say. But yeah, there was a very, very good article recently written by I think by an Orthodox, interestingly Russian Orthodox metropolitan. I hope I could find it. It was in response to, it's something that I would want every Christian, every Orthodox Christian, especially those who are trying to be as based as possible, to hear. Damn, can somebody send? If my wife is listening, if you can send me the article or a link to the article that was recently written by the Rokor Metropolitan in response to that news article about Orthodox Christianity, I would love to read that out loud, because it was a very, very good thing about how if your concern with Orthodoxy is politics, you should just not join. You should only join if you want to be faithful, if you want to be healed, and so on. So, yeah. Your favorite mate, you're watching Hodge Twins. They're very anti-Israel and anti-Jew now, which is very unfortunate, and I'm not really happy about that. Powerful. I didn't really know anything about them except that I saw them here and there, and they seem to just do funny stuff. And then they became very anti-Israel and anti-Jewish, which is funny because they don't know anything. Ayatollah Khamenei, Rabbinic Judaism post-Jesus is garbage theologically. Rabbinical Judaism post-Jesus is garbage theologically. I don't see why anyway is around this. However, the idea it is about subjugating goys is retarded. Yeah, it is not about subjugating goys. It is just a religion. That's it. Mumu Joe, what the Hamas and co did is barbaric. Many Palestinians support them enemy. If that Amalek, what's wrong with comparing? Yeah, they are Amalek. They're literally Amalek. Andrew Limpris says the Rothschilds are ones who tighten the jar extra tight. Dude, I'm trying to make peace with Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, and I've already said it. I think his arguments are pretty sloppy, and that he needs to add some sources and quit saying, "No, I don't need sources. I just need logic," and so on. But as for the jar and AP, when I pointed out, I said, "Hey, every guy's," but I'm usually like the biggest guy in a room, so I'm the one people hand the jar to open this jar. I'm saying, I do recall a couple instances in my life where I was like, "Oh, no, my hands are a little slippy. I can't get this jar open." In fact, that happened to me like a couple of days before the thing with Andrew. I was trying to open a jar of salsa and I couldn't get it happened. So I'll defend him on that point. With that said, I will use it against him for the rest of my life because there's no video footage of me failing to open a jar.
Oh, I think I've got it. Wait a minute.
Are you going to show the clip of him failing to open a jar?
No.
Oh, good.
Here. I wonder if I want to read the whole thing. So this is written by who? That's probably at the beginning. From the diocesan bishop. The following brief talk was given by His Grace Bishop Irene of London in Western Europe after the Divine Liturgy of 25th May 2025 in the Diocesan Cathedral, London. This was in response to an article that came out, which was about how American men are joining the Orthodox Church because they are promised unreasonable amounts of masculinity or something.
Yeah, you become a real man if you join us. Otherwise, you're a little weakling.
So here it is. It goes, Christ is risen. I wish to say a small word here after the divine service in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. It's not often, in fact, it's extremely rare that I ever comment from this place on things going on in the media or in the political world, because for the most part, these have no bearing upon our life in Christ. But I do want to say something today that's in response directly to something in the press. As of this morning, there is an article that has been published in the mass media. It's on the radio and so on about the Russian church, particularly in America, but more broadly about the church abroad. And it talks about the church in terms of people seeking masculinity and a conservative environment and a political environment that's different from the liberal world around them. And I feel it's necessary to say something in light of this to all of you who are here. Now, I don't want to read the entire article, although I think it's a very, very good one, but I would recommend seeking it out. You have the title right here. If you Google it, you will get it. But there was a section which I wanted to read. So none of this has anything to do with the teaching of Jesus Christ. This church proclaims a simple reality that in Jesus Christ, our Savior, all of us discover what it means to be a human being, what it means to become a human person, and this is to live according to the gospel after the image of Christ. If you have lost sight of what it means to be a man in this strange world, or if you have lost sight of what it means to be a woman in this strange world, this is hardly surprising. This world is more confused about these simple concepts than about almost anything else. So if you're here because you are confused and you wish to find sanity and normality in the teachings of Christ, God bless you, and may we by God's mercy be of some help. But if you are here because you think this is a place where you can reinforce some cultural masculinity, if you're here because you think this is the place to rebel against what you see going on politically around you or socially around you, please keep on going. Go somewhere else. We are not here for this reason. We preach one thing and one thing only, the gospel of Jesus Christ our Lord. We preach it without fear and we preach it without agenda. Our only goal is that every single human being might become a living image of Christ himself. That men might become Christ-like men, that women might become Christ-like women, that children might be the true children of God, that the aged might find the real respect due to those who long live and struggle for Christ, that this world might come to understand what it means to be redeemed. All of these other characterizations of Christian life and characterization of church life, the thing they all have in common is that they seem never to be religious at all. Their only interest is in social and political questions. What are your views on masculinity, on sexuality, on politics, on government, on war? Do not come here if those are the questions that drive your life. Come here for one reason, because you are aware somewhere deep inside of you that something is wrong. Something is wrong with you, with me, with the world in which we live. And this something is called sin, and this is the place where it can be healed. I guess that kind of pretty much gives the gist of what this is about, but
pretty based. Why
very
can't
powerful.
Jay Dyer be more like this?
A very incredibly powerful article, which I recommend everyone to actually read and to get a proper understanding of things. Instead of the whole, oh, I go to Orthodox because it's super based. And I go to this church because it's very trad. And because I'm a real man. And because they are politically this and socially that. No, it's not about that at all. This is super based.
It is totally based.
Anyway, let's continue.
Hey,
It is intellectual.
look. Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't know you. We both clicked at the same time, but mine won. It says Dawa has just won the Islamic Olympics in London. God Logic showed up and they broke the 1,400-meter run. Sorry.
I want to see that. I want to see that.
Well, we'll check it out tomorrow, man. We'll check it out tomorrow. I'm hoping he posts it by then.
Moo Joe, that these intellectual tweens that have a convo about Islam, Muslims, and what is wrong with them and their culture. You know, few hours talking about why they should not exist. Now, here's the thing. There's actually one redeeming aspect about this episode with Jay Dyer, which is that they actually brought up the stupid idea that Christians might have more in common with Islam than with Judaism, to which Jay Dyer actually disagreed and pointed out things with Islam. So maybe this will open the door to cause them to not think that way and to also talk a little bit about the problems with Islam.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
because it's clear they've fallen for this internet thing from Muslims and from some non-Muslims, but usually from Muslims. Oh, but Muslims, we respect Jesus, we respect him. So what? You should be closer with us and allies with us against the Jews.
Powerful. Zed had no AP. The Wingerlings are God's chosen people. I never disagreed with that. Last spicy ramen. Needed a cap. Thank you for leading me to harmony icons, AP. Oh yeah, I forgot that I have the hat on here. Very based, very super based channel. A channel where you can learn how to be a true man, where you can learn true masculinity. No, a channel that is that does film stuff that I'm Christian film stuff that I recently got very, very impressed by and also told them about and also personally became a member, whose hat I'm wearing today. Shout out to Harmony. They're very, very totally based. And I've been watching their stuff recently. So shout out to Harmony. Ayatollah Khamenei, it's got to be tough for the Hodge twins, two dudes but sharing one brain cell. This is very, very mean. Celeria says, a little bit late and I won't be able to stay long, but here, just have a little bit of cash in case of a dire emergency. Nice. Nicely done. Well done. Ayatollah Khamenei, Hodge twins need to go back to talking about dumbbell flies and intermittent fasting because these guys are breaking the glass ceiling for imbeciles. Very, very mean.
Well, they were also fun. They were also funny just when they were reacting to stuff. They'd react to various clips and stuff like this, and they'd be joking and laughing, and it was awesome. And then they went on this. Well, Candace Owens, she says we have to go after the Jews now, so we're going to go after the Jews.
Jay Dyer made a space on X calling AP Muslim. I know it's very stupid. It's very stupid.
Dude, listen, here's what's hilarious. And guys, just get this through your heads. There are people who are really good at dealing with criticism. They crack up laughing when people insult them. And there are other people who who throw a tantrum and can't handle it. Jay, if you're the guy who can't handle the criticism and you lose your mind and your fans are like that too, which they obviously are, and me and AP are really good at dealing with criticism, we think it's fun and we think it's hilarious, probably not good to get involved with that, because there's no way you win. It's like a boxer. You can have a boxer with what they call an iron chin, meaning this guy can just get punched in his face all day. He just doesn't fall over. You have other people, they say he has a glass jaw. You just tap this guy on the jaw and he gets knocked out and so on. Anyway, a guy who has a glass jaw should not get into a fight with a guy who has an iron chin. That's just common sense there. So
here's what's funny. I don't know if Jay thought about it a little bit and came to reason, but I just wanted to check out his spaces, and he deleted it.
He deleted his... What the heck? We said we were going to go through it. He deleted his space?
Yeah.
Dude, hang on. Wait. And then Jay says he doesn't want to discuss the issues, apparently.
Jay, what are you talking about?
I said I was interested in the statistic with Andrew Wilson, because if he has a source, I'd be interested in that. If it's just made up, he can come clean about that and say, okay, I was thinking if you want to pick the temple, then you'd also want to pick the Messiah and stuff like that. And it's a little sloppy. And then you can still make your point. You can still run your argument without that. But as the argument, as you formulated it, depends on that point. So you need to reformulate it based on accurate information. What are you talking about with Jay? We were just saying, hey, come on and we'll discuss.
Jay, I literally said I am just like from the beginning, just as usual, as always. I never changed. I literally said again and again and again that I'm open to having a conversation with you, and I invite you to be live on Monday. If you're scared of David, we can do just you and me for now, and then later we can also do one with David together.
Yeah. So Jay, maybe you completely misunderstood. Maybe it seems like you're really, really terrible at understanding what anyone is saying. I don't know if you agree with the statistic that Andrew gave. So I would have zero reason to question you about Andrew's made up statistic. I would question Andrew about Andrew's made up statistic. That's like saying, oh, they just want to get me on there so they can complain about me not opening an olive jar. That wasn't you. We have no reason to question you about that sort of thing, Jay. So
yeah. So Jay, I don't know why he deleted his space. Maybe he thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
No, because he heard that if he doesn't show up on Monday, we're just going to go through that and expose the lies. And then he's like, oh, there's so many lies here. I know it. I just told 57 lies. I'll delete this so they can expose and humiliate me.
But once again, I'm not for the drama. I'm not for fighting. I'm for just having friendly disagreements and interactions with each other. I'm not sure why you are attacking me forever now. So
because you're a Muslim. I just said so in my deleted.
What is this dude, man?
He calls me a Muslim and then deletes it. Like what?
How dare you misrepresent me, you Muslim? Yeah, Muslim.
Yeah, what is this? Oh boy, these are the guys who become popular.
Still no hard feelings, still no disrespect, still no bad things about Jay Dyer from my side. As said, I respect him, and I don't want to fight with anybody anymore. That's it. Oof-tastic. Mohammed Hijab said that Elon Musk was blackmailing him before Aisha's situation dropped. Glenn Greenwald's fans say Mossad dumped the video of him. Clearly, this is proof that Elon Musk is a Rothschild.
Yes.
Did you see the whole thing going around with? I didn't really look at it very much, but the Glenn Greenwald thing.
There's no scenario where I want to click on anything. Once I understood what that is about, there's no scenario where I wanted to click on the name or anything else, right? Because you don't know what's gonna pop up, and you don't need those images in your head.
But
Yeah,
apparently,
apparently he had he was in some porn video or something like this, and then someone leaked it, and then you've got all these like Jake Shields. I saw it in terms of like the pointing out the hypocrisy of Jake Shields and all these guys and stuff like that. It's like, wait, these guys are still praising him. They're saying, oh yes, okay, he may be doing whatever he's doing in this video, but he's still such a great guy because he agrees with us against Israel.
and it's not even just some porn. It's like very, very messed up porn. Apparently, I don't know.
Oh.
Really, he paid somebody like big money, and he put on a skirt and some weird outfit, and does acts like spitting and licking on the ground or something. I don't know.
Hey, Glenn, just say that you were you converted to Islam for a brief time, and you were you wanted to understand what Muhammad went through on the night of Al-Zut, and then everyone's going to forgive you. They're going to say, oh, he's a Muslim during that time, he gets a free pass.
I found this funny here. Ian Carroll says the Glenn Greenwald scandal just proves the point. Israel's modern image is built on blackmail. They immediately connected it to Israel, of course. Glenn Greenwald, you just keep being one of the best journalists of our time, and you're all good. Sorry that you're going through this. The scandal reflects far worse on Zionists than you. A very funny thing to understand is that
this guy's doing all this perverted stuff, and somehow that's.
Yeah, it was actually Glenn Greenwald, so he's involved in some really weird gay sexual fantasies, and he recorded it on camera himself, and he was paying somebody, spitting on the ground and licking it and so on, recorded it himself. He even retweeted it himself, but apparently it was all Israel's fault.
Hold on. I have one question. Was the guy in the video with Glenn Greenwald Nick Fuentes or not?
I can't confirm or deny.
Okay, we don't know. So unconfirmed whether this was Nick Fuentes or not.
This response here by Alfred the Great, who I didn't know that he's still alive. The Zionists are so clever, it's scary. They wait for a year and a half after October 7th and then target a single critical journalist by releasing a video showing embarrassing but completely legal actions. What could they be planning next?
Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, this guy could be like mass murdering and torturing babies for fun, and then if the video popped out, they say, oh look, oh my goodness, I can't believe the Jews are using this to attack him, our greatest journalist ever.
Nathan Livingstone Milk Bar says, this is why I don't criticize Israel. They will make me do drugs and have gay fetish sex on tape with a 19-year-old Brazilian prostitute and force me to retweet it.
Jews! You show the meme, man. The meme is hilarious.
They'll force you to enjoy it too.
Retweets. He retweeted his own sex tape.
Yes.
Wait. Hang on. He shared it?
Yes.
Or someone posted it and then he
He
shared
apparently allegedly accidentally retweeted it and then unretweeted it. And then started complaining that he's being blackmailed or something.
That meme is funny. You're putting a stick in your own spokes of your own wheel, and then Israel's attacking me. That's funny.
It's just such an obvious image of how ridiculous everything has become. Like, he does something that is really, really disgusting, and then he accidentally retweets it and publicizes it, and then they blame it on Israel. This is how ridiculous it has all become. Just blame everything on Israel. If you do something stupid, something weird, blame it on Israel.
That's what you do.
And they are all running with it. Thousands of retweets and likes. They're running with it, actually.
Guys, this is what's really creepy about everyone splitting up into these groups that hate each other. It's that anything someone in your group then does, you blame on another group, even if it's you doing it and it has nothing to do with the other group. You just blame the other group, and everyone accepts it because they all hate the other group and they love you.
It was the Jews. The Jews did it. The Jews made me do it.
Captain Marvel, thank you, Captain Marvel, for the super chat. $100 super chat. JD with the small wiener energy thinks this big, brave, strong man to invade a space, force life conversion, and start throwing out hot fallacies. Thou will light. Look at how he refused to debate James White because Jay needs his loser gotcha unstructured format. Powerful.
Yeah, Jay would have gotten crushed by James White. What? not even man enough to be in the same debate with James White. What? And his fans know it. His fans know it. They were like messaging him, "Don't, James is too strong for you."
I wonder if anyone believes that. So, but wait, were you serious, David, when you said
What?
that James White would have crushed Jay Dyer?
Yeah, partly, and that I've seen James debate a lot. James is a good debater. Jay Dyer, I don't know, because again, I only saw him in that one thing. I've heard that he's a good debater and stuff. So anyway, if I got a guy that I know is a very, very skilled debater, another guy who some people claim that he's a skilled debater, but every comment I just saw by him is the most idiotic nonsense I've ever seen in my entire life, I have to wonder if he would actually succeed against James White.
Okay, I think you're still joking, but I don't get it. Diamond Encrusted Abdullah says, Allah means moon god, Hubal is moon god, author of Talmud, god of Saturn, and Israel, author of Bible from Andromeda star system. He's Baal, your creator. Exactly.
Why didn't you put Ezra in here?
The Prophet Allah Vergru said, at this point, I trust a line on the sand over Jay.
Talking about the Diddy line.
Yeah. Ayatollah Khamenei breaking. Jay Dyer just made a space on X confirming his transition to a groiper. Really? Hide your cat boys and remember to close the browser history, ortho larpers.
You heard it here, folks. Breaking news. Jay Dyer has confirmed that he is a groiper.
Yeah. Ayatollah Khamenei says, reminder, 97% of orthobros have never attended divine liturgy, nor are even catechumens. I know this is a normal, this is a usual thing that people say, even among Orthodox Christians. It is usually said that these online orthobros are not people who actually go to church. But I can neither deny nor confirm this.
Yeah, go to church for once, Jay Dyer.
Not Jay Dyer. He goes to church.
Really? Have you seen him?
Yes. Oleg Kholeva, I mean, I haven't seen him, but I'm pretty sure.
How do you know what happened? You see?
Oleg Kholeva says, is the battle flag based an opinion on the CSA? What is the CSA?
What's the battle flag?
Does the battle flag refer to the Orthodox battle flag?
Oh.
What is the CSA? I don't know. Last Spicy Ramen, your book pointer is a middle finger. Is it a middle finger? No, it's a pointing. It's the other finger. See? You see? Also, AP, did you see what Egypt tried to do with the monastery of St. Catherine on Mount Sinai? Christ is ascended. Yeah, I truly is. I did post about it as soon as I learned of the news, but I think the last update is that they actually the government of Egypt made a statement about this and said that nothing is going to change. But there were news. Was it yesterday? Was it 2 days ago? But there were news that the government of Egypt seized or was trying to seize the St. Catherine's Monastery in Egypt at Mount Sinai, which is the oldest continuously inhabited Christian monastery in the world, and also a very, very famous one for many different reasons. But then later on, Egypt announced and said, the Egyptian government directly made a statement and said that it is not being seized and everyone should be called to wait for official confirmations on things. So right now there seems to be no issue going on with that, but we'll just watch it. Ayatollah Khamenei, congrats on Jay's new feminine persona. This is very rude. Jean Rossis, mental hacker, says Orthodox hate Israel into the work of Hamas. Join the Catholic family, brother. We work for peace. Well, if the Orthodox Church has the Orthodox, then the Catholic Church has the Groypers. So, and some of the really insane trad Catholics. It's not just an Orthodox Catholic issue, unfortunately. Ayatollah Khamenei says the real housewives of the KGB patriarchate. Knows too much says not one anti-Israel influencer who is not resorting to insane double standards and falsehoods. They are immoral, dishonest hypocrites demonizing Israel and Jews. Yep, and they usually are not very much into actually debating these topics.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, just to be clear, as I was pointing out, you could criticize the Talmud in a way that would be perfectly acceptable. You could criticize Israel in a way that would be perfectly acceptable. Hey, you did this. This would have been a better thing to do. Therefore, you can interact with Jews and disagree with them and say, here's why I believe you're wrong. And why do you think you're right? And so there are completely legitimate ways to do all of this stuff. And so when I see entire groups that everything they do and say is like based on completely misrepresenting everything, outright deception, logical fallacies, and hypocrisy and double standards, it's like, I mean, why wouldn't you take one of the legitimate ways of criticizing whatever you're criticizing? Anyway, weird stuff.
Weird stuff. Weird stuff. ROCO, Russian Orthodox Church outside reality. Hey,
we should start using that. ROCOR.
No,
ROCOR. What?
ROCO is actually a church, a Orthodox jurisdiction that is a Russian church outside of Moscow, and
that would be outside. That would be ROCOM.
No, it's ROCOR. It's Russian church because it's actually it was so when the Soviet Union was established, when the communists did the revolution, the Russian church, much of which fled to outside Russia, established the Russian church outside Russia, which then was pretty much responsible for Orthodox Christianity or Russian Orthodox Christianity outside of Russia. And they were very much active in Europe and in America and all that. Later on, they came to unite with the Moscow church and are now part of the same body, but ROCOR still has its own separate jurisdiction. And I wouldn't disrespect ROCOR itself. I think that they're pretty cool. They're pretty good.
I don't mean to correct you, but I think ROCOR is Russian Orthodox, like metal music.
Oh yeah, it is. And even the article that I just read earlier was from a ROCOR bishop, so they're not bad. Satiric talks. Jay likes to launder his groyperness through the religion. Makes me sad. Pans Schmans, David was right about increasing divisiveness and infighting, improving your value to your group. Beloved, let us pray more and more. Yeah, I don't think that that fighting about this kind of stuff is good.
No, right about like this increasing over time and this becoming just completely normal. Yeah, I was saying that for years, and yeah, you guys see it all around you.
Yep. I'm going to be very honest. Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson and others. Not sure if this means much to you, but from what I have learned so far, going into the church and taking advice from elders and others, I personally directly incorporated Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson into my daily prayers, where I directly pray for them as well, just because I had interactions with them that were positive and negative, but also negative, not just to pray for unity and goodness, but also to remind myself that that there is no need to fight. So there really is no need, and as long as you guys don't act in a hostile way against me, I have no interest in fighting with any of you guys.
And yeah, along those lines, let me just go ahead and point out, for the sake of full disclosure, I have no interest in these in this kind of thing either. So no interest in. Keep in mind, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying I've got a couple of things that I can focus on. I have enough trouble focusing on the couple of things that I focus on. But I do, given that the groupthink and attacking all other groups and so on is rising, I'm trying to be like almost a parody of it so that they actually understand what they're doing. I'm gonna try that for a while and see what happens. But yeah, whatever you're doing, whatever your group is doing, and then coming and blasting me over some nonsense, I'm going to do the exact same thing back to you for a while and until you get the point.
Furthermore, Bible says pray for Israel, Jay and Andrew Antichrist. Yeah, nobody's told to be against the Jews. Austin, you're lying. You're paid off by the Mossad. You see, this is the proof. Hold on one second. I have to check my pager. I love you both. God bless. Zechariah, Artsa box today. Nuclear Antichrist tomorrow. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
No, I'm MKW. I gotta go to sleep. Good night, agents R&D. Thank you very much. We will continue our path of doing whatever is in the best interest of Israel and the Mossad. Jean Rose says, what did you expect from Jay? He thinks Jews are in charge of the world. The CIA infiltrated the Vatican and we never went to the moon. Moo Joe says, let's say 70% wanted to name a Messiah. AC, so can they just name someone? They think Jews are God. They think Jesus is powerless. Why would they wait so long? This is just anti-Semitic claims. Irison says, hello, is there a way to contact you, Dr. David Wood? I've recently found out a Muslim that I thought was cool, just trying to get me to question Christianity the whole time. David, what do you say about this abomination?
Yeah, I don't understand how I'm connected to any of that.
You're supposed to give advice.
Oh, yeah. Then yeah, if you're in a conversation with the Muslim, then when he brings up something to you, say if it's something you're not familiar with, and say, hey, I'd like to go look into this. But the main thing would be right now, learn the Islamic dilemma. That will help you. That will help you in anything he's trying to bring up with you. Islamic dilemma. Look it up.
There's even a song about the Islamic dilemma.
It's a jammy jam.
Which is going to come out very soon as its own video.
Hey, you should do Monday live with Jay Dyer, or just mocking Jay Dyer the entire time if he doesn't show up, and the world premiere of AP's Islamic Dilemma reggae song.
Oh yeah, I actually have a fantastic video that was prepared and made for me, so that's very, very cool. Maybe I should do that. I should do the world premiere on Monday. See?
World premiere, Solomon Grundy.
Hello, is there a way to connect you? Yes. Rex Danger, can we infight after we convert? Can we infight after we convert everyone else? Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Angel Gabriel killed Jesus, says Diamond Encrusted Abdullah. Eric Barlow says, I really don't understand why do we tear ourselves apart over the smallest of things. As long as we confess the Nicene Creed, I think we belong to the same Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Here's one problem, Eric Barlow. You say as long as we confess the Nicene Creed. My Nicene Creed is slightly different from the Catholic Church's Nicene Creed.
And therefore you got to fight.
And then we start fighting already.
Yeah, because the Catholics, they have the true Nicene Creed. And then the Orthodox have their messed up version.
Yeah, the Catholic Church kind of added to the Nicene Creed later on. And the Orthodox Church has a big problem with that. Has a big problem with that and said, you can't do that. How dare you do that? But there's more disagreement than that. But yeah, what I think sometimes is when I look at this at the scripture and when I look at the things that Jesus did, I wonder if Jesus came back today and looked at all these traditions, all these trads who are like, no, we will never unite with those Christians because those Christians do this wrong, and we are right and they're wrong. I wonder if Jesus would come back and look at all of us and say, oh yeah, you're doing a banger job, fantastic job. This is exactly what I told you to do, to fight each other over trivial stuff. Hobocop, at this point, I'm just going to listen to my spiritual father and take everything online said about orthodoxy with a grain of salt. Too many psychos. That's what I do. That's what I do. After a little bit of discussion, after a little bit of interacting with orthodoxy online, I decided I spoke with my priest and basically just came to that same decision. In fact, I took it even further than that. I was at first listening to a series of studies of catechism and orthodoxy to just quickly get it all into my head. But then after talking to my priest, I cut that off as well to just focus on whatever he says and to just continue with my studies from the books that he recommends and the books that he gives as advice and reading the Bible, and everything has been fantastic in that way. No need to interact with the online community at all.
Yeah, and Hobocop's right. Too many psychos. Stay away from them.
Yep. Ash Myers, I'm Jewish, former Orthodox. I address a lot of this in my channel. See what I did there.
We see it. I address this on my channel. Nice. Ash
Myers. You see? Oh yeah, interesting. 2000. Cool. Amy Lee, Jay Dyer and Syrian Girl occasionally go on Alex Jones. Some of what he says he's adopted from AJ, as has Candace. I've seen clips on Rumble. I have
Jay
I have
Dyer
zero
get all
respect
his
for-
views from Syrian Girl.
I have zero respect for Alex Jones. The guy's a complete nutjob and lunatic, and
He's
it
pretty
just
funny, man. Come on.
says whatever.
He's been right about all kinds of things, weird things. Like sometimes he'll say the most insane thing, and it turns out to be, yep, it was insane. Other times he'll say a completely insane thing, and he actually turns out to be right. The lesson there is just keep saying completely insane things, and eventually you'll be right about some of them, and then you can say, you see.
The funny thing is that despite all the things that Alex Jones said, and despite all the disrespect that I had for him, after I found out that he actually invites Syrian Girl as a serious voice, that's when I lost most.
He
respect
actually
for
invites
Alex.
Syrian Girl on there?
Yes.
The most insanely delusional and idiotic, like the ultimate combination of like everything you wouldn't want reporting news is Syrian Girl. And that's who Alex Jones gets?
He actually invites her on as a reasonable source of information on Middle East issues.
Now, a lot of us don't know what to believe about what's going on in the Middle East. Fortunately, we have
Oh,
world-renowned
yeah.
expert Syrian Girl on here
So
with us.
what's happening is Israel is basically
What's
trying to
happening?
like destroy everything, and believe me or not, but in a few months, we will have a world war, and everything will be destroyed in the Middle East.
And did Israel just nuke Gaza? Did they just nuke Syria?
And thank you so much, Alex Jones, for inviting me on to speak the truth on these things and to inform everyone that in a few months there will be a huge world war and we will all die in a nuclear apocalypse.
And they might nuke Gaza again like they did the last time some bomb struck something.
But seriously, they already did nuke them like 5,000 times. We just didn't feel it because we are being blinded by the Israeli Zionist organization.
The Palestinians have been nuked over and over again, and they're still being nuked.
Guys, if you think we're exaggerating, we're not. This
And
was,
then-
like
and then
every
Alex
time
Jones-
there's some big bomb that goes off and stuff, she posts, did Israel just nuke this? Like, she doesn't understand between like an ordinary bomb being dropped on something and a nuclear bomb being dropped on something.
And then after she says all of this nonsense, Alex Jones is like, "Whoa, wow, that was very powerful. Thank you, Syrian Girl, for enlightening
heard
us
it here,
on what's
folks.
going on there."
You heard it here, folks. hey, Alex, if you want to, I mean, you've done it, but kind of separately. You need to get Kanye and Syrian Girl on there at the same time with Jay Dyer, peas in a pod sort of thing, and have this great discussion of the Middle East and Jews.
I'm not even kidding, man. You think I'm joking? Look here. Alex Jones, exclusive. Syrian Girl reveals how escalations in the Middle East could ignite mankind's final war.
They already have like thousands of times, according to Syrian Girl.
War. You get that feeling like this is a war, like as they called World War I, a war to end all wars. It's all in on all sides, and so far there have been more and more indications that this is going to spiral out of control, that this may even go nuclear. I mean, world leaders are getting assassinated left and right.
Hold up, that's where Andrew Wilson got the idea. Andrew Wilson, you got your concerns about this nuclear war from Syrian Girl? Are you kidding me? You're all on the same side, remember?
I even commented on this. You're actually trusting Syrian Girl.
Syrian Girl, like the dumbest of the dumb.
Like, I mean, I can forgive Alex Jones for all the stupid and insane things that he said, but actually inviting Syrian Girl on repeatedly as an actual authority on things.
I have to say, to be the greatest thing in the world, Syrian Girl and the Hodge twins discussing all this stuff. Make it happen. Make it happen. I would pay to see that awesome discussion.
Man. Cling to Christ. AP, I love your desire to have unity in the body of Christ. Little bro, but remember Titus 3:10 and 11. Love you, boys. Thank you. David, what does Titus 3:10 and 11 say? You know it all by memory, right?
That's that passage. It's about If rebuke a divisive person, then rebuke him again, and after that have nothing to do with him. So it's like
warn a divisive person once and then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them. You may be sure that such people are warped and sinful. They are self-condemned.
now that's that's like people are causing division in the church and stuff like that. I don't know if that would apply to online personalities spouting all kinds of insane things, like you should stop correcting them or something like that.
Arctic Base, fascinating discussion between Alex O'Connor and Diamond McCulloch, great historian of Christianity. Dyer made, not Diamond, on sex and Christianity. Just out, really thought-provoking. I thought I saw a thumbnail of that and I thought, I'm not going to click on that. So, Christina says, David Dyer, I remember watching the call-in shows with Sam S. What are the major trend changes in Dawa Islam apostasy you've noticed since then?
Apostasy rates have skyrocketed since then. Dawa back then was more offensive. They were focused on going and giving their dawah and stuff, and there was this huge atmosphere of ignorance, and so they could take advantage of people's ignorance a lot more. Whereas now there are way more people who know how to respond to them, and so it's just all around better right now. You have way more people destroying the dawah right now, which is why the dawah has become much more like defensive and trying to respond to things and so on, because they know that their arguments don't work.
You see, Ashma is AP, former Orthodox Jew here. I would love to discuss with you on this. There's a lot of middle ground people don't like to hear. What do you mean, former Orthodox Jew? What are you? What are you? What is you? Ashmaze. You are, what are you? Rabbinic Judaism is not from the Bible. They lied to you. Ancient rabbis taught Christianity, rabbinic legend proves Jesus. Okay, you are a critic of rabbinic Judaism, but what are you? I don't know. Interesting. Maybe, sure, we can. K-Bar's beautiful Jew. Regardless of what happens, I will always support you too. David led me to salvation.
Oh, really? If me and AP become axe murderers and go on a huge killing spree, you'll still support us?
Yes.
Cool. Then you can join our group.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Philip 334 says, AP and Dawood, truly appreciate you going over this today. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Adam Pag Pogo made a super chat. Frank Goodyear, Jay contradicts Paul's words in Romans 9 and 11:18. I have recently found that lots of people seem to have big problems with that part of the New Testament. W. David Pleasant says, I feel that Christians of all flavors, including Ortho-Bros, need to prioritize theological conflicts. This means resist Islam maximally. After that, then we can address Judaism and sectarian issues. I think that any Christian talking about Jews or Judaism or the Israel issue is wasting everyone's time, honestly. If you want to talk about something, talk about yourself and talk about the church or talk about Islam, which is an actual problem. You know where Israel is on countries that persecute Christians? Nowhere. Arctic Base, what's one of the first things to happen after the Council of Nicaea? The Jews were expelled from Jerusalem. Says it all. Hypocrisy, anyone? Powerful. Adam Pogo, along with my other chat, I've noticed that Al Zut fans are on the Daily Wire comments. Kind of fun finding folks that watch the most humble and the dizzle. Found that Al Zut fans are on the Daily Wire comments. Isaiah 53, no one goes around killing people after reading Talmud. Yeah, they don't. Michael Beacon, how dare you say we're anti-Semitic? We just believe they're inhuman monsters. Maddie,
basic assessment.
Are you guys cool with Charlie Kirk? I don't have anything against Charlie Kirk. I mean, I seem to.
I know nothing about him, again, except I saw him doing something where he's responding to people at a university. He's got one of those tables where you can, at least I think this was him. I don't even remember what he said. So I guess I'm cool with them in the sense that I'm cool with people I know absolutely nothing about, but
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I don't have anything against him. I know very, very little about him. I know that he's been heading this whole conservative mainstream movement in America for the longest time, deeply connected. I know that he does lots of stuff. I know that he's very anti-Islam, which I appreciate about him. I don't know much about him. PBUM AP MCGA make Constantinople great again. 529 1453. Oh yeah, it was the anniversary of the conquest of Constantinople, and you didn't even pay any attention to this, David. 2 days ago. How dare you? You make me sick. Jack Ray gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very, very much, man. Gornice Bulldozer Ortho Bro is not strong enough of an insult for these people. I think Ortho Cuck or Ortho Brr is more accurate. I found the new temple of Al Zut. Search up the crowd, Sydney. Look at it from the side view. Powerful. Ortho Joe said, AP the most humble. Your audience will support you calling out Ortho Bro. But if you start defending traditional Christian beliefs like the Theotokos is sinless, a lot of them will turn on you. AP the most humble. Your audience will support you calling out Orthobro. But if you start defending traditional Christian beliefs like the Theotokos is sinless, a lot of them will turn on you. Well, here's the thing. I'm not the one who starts out attacking or calling out anybody here. I would right now not be in the position to defend Orthodox Christian beliefs. If you ask me specific things, maybe I would get into them on a minor level. If you ask me why I prefer it, I would get into it on a minor level. But I'm not in authority or in any position. I don't consider myself to be in any position to defend Orthodox Christian beliefs or anything like that. I can just comment on whatever I know about them. That's it. Similarly, I wouldn't normally sit here and start attacking random Orthodox people. You have to understand that it's not me going after them. It's them coming after me and me just responding to them. Sonny Erickson, Zup AP. Oh, hi, David. Jennifer S. I am Jewish. We are self-critical people. We ourselves say that the destruction of the Second Temple was our fault for baseless hatred and extreme legalism. So that part doesn't contradict early Christian critique. This is a fact. I actually, which book was that? Which book was that? It was either one of the courses that I was going through with Judaism, or it was the very book about the Rebbe. I don't know, but in one of these books, I actually learned that it is a traditional Jewish perspective that that because of Jewish straying from the commandments and because of certain behaviors that were very worldly, the punishment was brought about to the Jewish people in the destruction of the Second Temple, which was a great catastrophe. So it is a traditional Orthodox Jewish perspective that it is a punishment. Along with that, I also came to a section where which kind of disturbed me a little bit, where it was presented as a traditional Orthodox perspective that any big calamity that befalls the Jewish people is seen as a punishment by God against Jews because of certain things that Jews failed to do. For example, there it was described that traditional Orthodox Jews were seeing the Holocaust as a punishment by God, deserved, and so on. At which point I thought, okay, this is kind of messed up, and I can't really comprehend that right now. But these are very Jewish perspectives. So yeah, Jews are not all about we are best. Rage against the Ummah. Who has wrecked Muhammad more, you two or the men of Al Zut?
Apples and oranges. Can't really compare because we wreck him in different ways.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Isaac Girl for Life made a super sticker. Made a super sticker, as you would say if you spoke like a Turk. Which looks like a very happy one. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Joe of the Mosques says, I'm behind. I'm sorry. I can't stand the Hodge twins since they defended Tate and got pictures with him. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Meredith Grotti, our God could have been instructing his people how to be a kingdom of priests, not only pointing to Jesus. He needs to review Jerusalem Council, Acts 16. Powerful. Jehovah Stan says the Jews killed Jesus and we're proud of that. That weakling was spreading corruption in the land.
Spreading corruption.
Tweak 87, that's what Muslims would say, pretty much. Tweak 87, space is no longer safe. Really? That's weird. But he actually deleted it directly. Justin Whitelock, if Jay Dyer is still on, please get off the internet and take a breather. This is not okay. Your favorite maid? Misha, the streets of Paris have been al-Zuted game. Powerful. Ezra is dismayed at the perfect preservation in Paris. Nezra Damas is the real Mahdi. Paris bin Mubahalat. What the hell is that?
All true.
Julian J. David, what's the secret to having your level? Yeah, that was not a Jewish super chat, dude. A Jewish super chat would not call their username Jehovah Stan. No single actual Jew would do that. So it's funny when an anti-Jew needs to blame something on Jews and then actually doesn't even know what Jews are, how Jews are. Julian J. David, what's the secret to having your level of patience while listening to the same recycled arguments from Muslims daily? David, what's your solution to this?
Yeah, just focus on how it makes it easier. I mean, if people came to you with a different argument every single time, you'd think, oh, this is getting kind of tricky. But yeah, if you just come with the same,
Oh, look, Muhammad in the Bible. Oh, look, perfect preservation of the Quran. Oh, look at this scientific
miracle, it's like, okay, well, cool. And it's just, you guys make it easy.
You see? Meredith Grotti, sorry, I meant Acts 15 for the Jerusalem Council.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Petal says Israel formation in 1947 led to many archaeological proofs aiding us and Islam's claims of corrupted Bible. Arabs would have hid them. So war is spiritual. Powerful, powerful. Israel's building did lead to a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff, including archaeology. And also Christian archaeology, by the way. Are people aware of how much there are Christian projects going on in Israel on the ground? You can track them on YouTube. You can find so many archaeologists, organizations digging and studying in Israel under Jewish leadership as we speak. Silvo, hey AP, I didn't get the opportunity to congratulate you earlier, but I'm glad you've decided to put your trust in Christ, regardless of whatever denomination you may end up in. God bless. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Metalmorphosis, ever talk to Traveling Clad or Sahar TV good guys? I know Traveling Clad personally. He's a very good guy. Sahar TV, who's Sahar TV? Sahar TV. Nope, never interacted. Based AP of enough powerful, thank you. Grumpy Granny for my favorite ortho bro. Oh, thank you. Water Gang LTD. Don't forget who JD writes for. Sam Hyde groomed someone. Marky Thompson said Jews want you broke and on drugs. Retweet Stan Bilzerian. Yeah, I know that. No, Sam Hyde is an internet gangster boss. So if I say something negative about him, he'll probably send his people against me or something like that.
Did Jay retweet Dan Bilzerian? Because that's kind of what?
No, I think he's saying Sam Hyde did retweet Dan Bilzerian or something.
Oh, okay. So that's because that's like Alex Jones getting on Syrian Girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to say something very bad, but I don't really know much about Sam Hyde, so I'll just keep it to myself. Pro Rosary became a YouTube member. Welcome to the channel. Mohab Abdullah, welcome. Gordon Noise Bulldozer, AP Syrian Girl voice sounds like Patrick Starr.
No, Syrian Girl sounds like Patrick Starr, and AP just did a spot-on impression.
No, Patrick Starr sounds like Syrian Girl.
That's true. Wait a minute. What if Syrian Girl voiced Patrick Starr for the cartoon?
I'm going to look it up right now. Patrick Starr.
This one's funny too. Syrian Girl looks like Marilyn Manson.
Patrick Starr voice actor. Oh my God, Syrian Girl.
Yeah, Syrian Girl.
It's Syrian Girl. Wow, didn't know.
Hey, SpongeBob. Did that guy just knew?
Who's someone else in the show? I don't know anyone.
I don't know.
Who's the guy that you're always trying to get the hamburger from?
I don't know.
Oh man, I was gonna make a joke about him getting nuked, but I don't know anyone else's name.
Go knows both of the Syrian girl looks like Marilyn Manson. He does, yeah. Guys, what is your opinion on the Crusades?
Correct in intending to go deal with the jihadis who are taking captives and kidnapping
Hey, it's
pilgrims
Plankton.
and so on.
Plankton.
Plankton, okay.
Hey, SpongeBob, did you just nuke Plankton?
That's funny.
So, yeah, Crusades started with good intentions. Came
Yeah,
too
some
late,
good
but also
intentions,
messed
but
up.
you had a bunch. Yeah, you had a bunch of people who weren't. You had a bunch of people involved who hadn't really absorbed much of the gospel and ended up doing some horrible things.
The funny thing is, it's actually something that I struggle with personally because, so according to Orthodox Christianity, the Crusader attitude would have been wrong, religiously speaking. Just the entirety of the Crusades would have been kind of wrong, and having priestly people or monastic people fighting and all that is actually not considered acceptable in Orthodoxy. But I always thought historically that the Crusades were totally justified in foundation, but later on kind of spiraled out of control in very, very bad ways. But yeah, politically seen, completely justified in the beginning. Andre Bacco made a super chat. AP, you still have your Baphomet statue? No, my wife threw it in the trash.
As she should have.
She threw it in the trash. Aish minus AP to answer. I'm a former Orthodox Jew, critical of rabbinic theology, not the Jewish people. Proud IDF veteran. Oh, cool. Okay, nice. Interesting. Pat's leather strap, Lily J and Immorton Mo in Mad Max Jihad Drive. You see, Ariella made a super sticker. Thank you so much, Ariella, for that super sticker. Saying hype. Thank you. Now, I did want to look at more sections of the Jay Dyer whole thing, but he already hates the fact that we are doing this. He's probably restraining himself right now and trying to abstain from commenting. But I guess we can just leave it here. It's been
we can always revisit this over and over and over and over and over forever.
Forever.
What? Frog Dog says, did she throw out the Allah Zoot pine cone too? The Allah Zoot.
This is an interesting video, man.
Wait, are you gonna play it? Are you gonna play it?
No.
Okay, just gonna show everyone what's coming soon.
Why do you say my book's been changed?
Yeah, so I have a lyric video for the song called Who Told You to Judge by It, or just Islamic Dilemma song. And I think it's very cool. Turned out very cool.
It's very based.
Jesus died and he rose from the dead, but your book says no, he never died. So which one's true? Somebody
lied.
Who told you to judge by it if it's broken? Why you call it light then claim it was stolen? You can't play both sides with one story. Your claim crashes down in all its glory.
This has I have to say, it has an amazing hook, man. An amazing chorus. I love it. It is partially my creation, so it's kind of a very shameless thing to say.
The greatest song that's ever been.
But
I made it.
It's a very good reggae music. So
yeah, makes me want to sit around and make a fat blunt out of the Quran and smoke it all day and listen to this song.
Maybe we should do that one day.
Smoking the Quran. dude, we should do that at your house. We won't actually be smoking weed, but we'll roll up some Quran joints. And,
powerful. All right, I'm going to publish this very soon, but this is going to be the first song to be published under Apostate Music. So, yep, coming soon, coming to a town near you. All right, anything else, David?
Nope, that's it. That's it. Just tomorrow, unless something goes horribly wrong, should be reviewing God Logic versus Ali Dawah.
Darwa. All right. And then on Monday, we will finally have Jay Dyer on here on the channel so he can talk with us.
Yeah, because if he doesn't show up, then he's a coward and he's running from AP, right? Everyone, right, Orthobros? That's what it means, right? If he doesn't show up when he's been invited, that means he's running and he's scared of being humiliated.
And then we might also have a live stream about Lily J at some point. So, yeah.
What about
All right,
Lily J. Dyer?
Jack Ray says, based Mrs. AP throwing the statue away. Indeed, very, very based. It was very based of her to do. Very based of her to do. I didn't, I told the story before of the Baphomet statue, but it was actually kind of wild because I got the Baphomet statue, a big one, because I wanted to use it for a video that I was making, that I was preparing about Muhammad and the connection between Muhammad and Baphomet. So I got this big statue, but I also got it because I thought it looked kind of cool. This is like still my atheism speaking. And then around the time my wife started becoming religious and all that, I have the statue around me. I leave it here in my office place one night. In the morning, I come back to my place and it is on the ground, broken. And I think, how did that happen? What the heck has happened? How did that happen? How did that fall? I don't even understand. So it's broken, and I thought to myself, okay, I really kind of wanted to have this around, wanted to record something. So I went online and ordered another one, ordered another Baphomet statue. As soon as I took it and wanted to put it on my desk, I just grabbed it and it broke again. At the same spot, I think, like the horn or something like that. And then a wing of it broke as well. And this was very, very bizarre. And of course, some people were telling me that this kind of looks like there's something bigger going on. But I just thought it was very, very wild. In the end, my wife just took them and threw both of them away. And yeah.
You should get another one because that video might be interesting. And then at the end of the video can be it in the garbage.
That's funny.
Knowing that is based on Muhammad.
Powerful. But yeah, for those who are curious, I might make a video about that at some point. But Baphomet has a connection with Muhammad.
And then Andrew Martin put, which has been pointed out before, but it was what I instantly thought of the first time you told that story. But Andrew said it's like the statue of Dagon. That was the Philistine god. That's in Judges.
Very, 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 very based.
Yeah.
I said they were anti-Jew from the beginning. The fact that they said that Jews think they're exempt from the Ten Commandments doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Yep. They're pretty anti-Semitic, the peeps. Anyway, all right. Thanks everybody for watching. David, are we going live tomorrow? Yes, we are. Okay.
Yeah. Lord willing.
Tomorrow is church day, so yeah. I started making like these AI pictures of go to church with ridiculous photos on them. Maybe I should publish them regularly. Thanks everybody for watching. Once again, just want to point out there is no intention on my side to beef or war with any of these people. This was supposed to be a respectful disagreement and fact-checking things. I invite Andrew Wilson, Jay Dyer, and all the others to have just respectful disagreements and interactions with each other. Also invite Jay Dyer to have a conversation with me live.
Yep.
And despite our massive disagreements and massive oppositions to each other's positions, I respect Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson. And in fact, I'm going to say one thing, which is that I've learned from Jay Dyer. I've learned from Andrew Wilson even Andrew Wilson. Can you imagine that? I learned from Andrew Wilson. I learned from different people that are of different Christian traditions, and I disagree with all of them to some extent or another, and I still have respect for each one of them. There's no reason to be so disgusting and vile to each other. Let's do peace. How about that?
Yeah. So, Jay, if you want to be humiliated, then you can join us live for a discussion or just AP. And if you don't, then you're basically a scared little girl.
Pretty much the same message as I just said. So awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. And as always, as the ancient people said, which roughly translates in some traditions to
Stay away from Islam.